I hate Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I didn't enjoy 1 second of it. You know what? Bad Boys. I hate all of it.
Fuck, like the movie? Or
I'm sorry. Yeah, the movie. I didn't clarify.
Oh, okay.
The movie.
Oh, yeah, me too. What?
That's what I meant.
Welcome to A Cast with No Name. We are your hosts. I'm Jay.
And I'm Matt.
This is episode 2, Monday, April 4th, 2022. This episode, we will discuss recent events involving Bruce Willis and Jim Carrey, plus our feature discussion of our top 5 favorite film directors. But first, what's going on, Matt?
Jay?
Yes?
This past week, we lived through something that just overtook the national conversation for whatever reason. And I think it was a great segue into the end of our last podcast where we just fumble-fucked our way through the sign-off and we said, I love you. And obviously, me and you were referencing a scene in Idiocracy where the character's going to Costco and the greeting is, "Welcome to Costco, I love you."
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the country was overrun with morons this past week. I think we had a
Just
brief...
this past week?
That's fair. It's a fair point. But I feel like we entered the looking glass here this past week just how crazy something can just be blown out of proportion.
Yeah. Well, there's nothing more important going on last week at all other than the slap of Will Smith. So, I mean, I think the world had to come to a halt. I'm glad Russia and Ukraine stopped doing whatever the hell that is they're doing to kind of dissect this information and kind of bring it and absorb it. World hunger stopped for a whole week.
Well, Jay, were you expecting it to turn into a Challenger explosion moment or a 9/11 moment? Where were you? What were you doing at what moment? What were you doing when the slap happened?
Yeah, I did not expect it to be that big of a deal as what it was.
Oh my gosh.
And I was tired of talking about it. I think by the time Wednesday or Tuesday rolled around, and just the fact that it is blown way out of proportion, which is interesting because why was it?
Right.
And I think that's more interesting to the reason why it was blown more out of proportion than actually what happened. Because when you boil it down, Will Smith smacked somebody out of just a wrong sense of judgment. And that's all it was. But I think it was blown out of proportion just because of what people thought about Will Smith.
I'm not trying to prolong it. I instantly thought of Idiocracy. Like on Wednesday or Thursday, people were still talking about it. I just felt like I was in that movie for just like, what do we do? Well, I don't know. Why don't we water it? What, the stuff out of the toilet? Like, that's
That's great.
That's exactly how I felt when people were talking, like connecting it with Trump and white supremacy.
Somebody acted like an asshole.
Yeah.
For 30 seconds. That's it.
And let's move on. Why are we self-parodying ourselves and we're becoming the stars of Idiocracy?
That's all it was. I mean, we talked about it. It's entertainment-esque. So it was in our purview of things.
And it happened at the Oscars.
Right.
What are you going to do? Well, what about you, Jay? What's on your mind?
Oh, not a whole lot.
Yeah, didn't watch anything this past week?
I did. Tin Cup, which that's on my mind.
I love that movie.
It's probably my favorite golf movie.
Who directed that? I can't remember.
Ron Shelton.
The same dude who did White Man Can't Jump and
Bull Durham, Played to the
all
Bone.
The good sports movies.
Yeah, he does like very good sports movies.
He does.
But yeah, watched Tin Cup. I usually watch it about once a year to get me in the mood for golf. Or once I start getting in the mood for golf, I watch Tin Cup.
Are you telling me we're going to be hitting the links here soon?
Absolutely. And it's Masters week. So the Masters is going on this week. I'm super.
Look at you. See?
I know.
I'm the sports guy. You're over here showing me up.
The Masters is one of the few sports things that I actually watch.
Right.
And crossing my fingers that Tiger Woods plays. I want to see him win again.
Can you imagine the ratings boom? Holy shit.
I love it. He was doing his practice round. He
felt good. His back didn't spasm.
Looked good. He everyone that was there, the spectating, they were writing reports on it where he looked like he was doing the work. So
I would totally watch.
Yeah, I'm hoping he plays.
Yeah.
It's so that's on my mind. Watch Tin Cup. Watch it a lot. Favorite golf movie.
I haven't seen it in forever. The scene I always remember is when he keeps shooting. That's the movie, right? Where he keeps shooting.
Yeah, give me another ball.
Is it a par 3 or because he's trying to hit the green?
So it's a par 5 that he's trying to hit, and he keeps throughout the tournament. He's always hitting it in the exact same spot, in the smart place to lay up.
Sure.
And
he's not doing it because he's a rebel.
Yeah, all 4 days because he wants to go for it, and so all 4 days he keeps trying to hit it to the green. And but yeah, great movie. Probably one of my favorite. I rewatching it. It's probably one of my favorite Kevin Costner performances. I love him as an actor. I really love him as a director. He's not the best actor.
He plays the same person. He doesn't have range, really, I would say.
Yeah.
Would you say he has range?
No. Because, and that's okay.
Yeah. Jason Statham doesn't have range, but I love Jason Statham movies.
Yeah. Kevin Costner does a very good romantic comedy lead. I think that's his best role. That Tin Cup role, just that kind of cocky but charming personality he's very good at. Bull Durham, very good at. When he tries to be serious or intimidating, I don't buy it. Like The Bodyguard. I love The Bodyguard. I love him in that movie. Some of his line delivery in that is just
a little subpar.
Oh, it's a
golf reference.
Yeah, it's a little. It could be better.
I haven't seen The Bodyguard, and I think I've seen it once. It's been a long time.
One of the best soundtracks ever.
It is.
Yeah. But yeah, I love The Bodyguard. But in Kevin Costner, I love like Open Range. He's done pretty good. He's good in Yellowstone. But I mean,
what's the last movie he's directed? I can't even.
Open Range, and that was
2003. What? I've never seen Open Range. And you always rave about it. I feel
fantastic.
Is it?
In the sweet run time.
Oh yeah, what's
3 hour?
Oh, it's 3.
It might be a little over 3, but it's a slow burn Western, and
we should do a podcast where I give you a movie that I've seen and I love that you haven't, and see what you think about it, and vice versa. And then for you, Open Range, would that be the pick for me?
Yeah, if you haven't seen it,
never seen it.
I wouldn't mind watching that again. Yeah.
Okay, well, good. I'll think of something.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, I cut you off there.
No. But yeah. So watch Tin Cup. Rene Russo's good in it. Don Johnson's good in it. I mean, it's just
Don Johnson. Oh yeah, he is in that.
Yeah. There's some pro golfers in there. Like a very young Phil Mickelson is in there. It doesn't have any lines. But then you have Jim Nantz. He's nice. They actually brought in professional golfers, professional commentators. Yeah, good. It's a fun movie. Cheech Marin's in it. He's great.
Yeah.
But yeah, love that movie.
Yeah, it's like a warm blanket.
Yeah.
It's a feel-good movie.
Yep.
Cool. Yeah, well, I watched Death on the Nile, and I feel like Lawrence of Arabia spoiled it for me.
How so?
Because, Jay, we were talking about how like they never make movies like that anymore, and how you knew that it was on location, and you were there. You felt like you're in the desert, right? Death on the Nile gave me that opposite feeling. I knew it was green screen. It looked fake. In order for that movie like that to overcome something that glaring, the story has to be incredible. And the story, I'm sorry, was okay. You know, a typical whodunit. Death on the Nile is a sequel to Murder on the Orient Express, where and I love Kenneth Branagh. He's a great director, and he's the best part of the movie. But that's not really saying all that much. But again, it's single setting murder mystery. And it just took me out of it. I knew everything was green screened, everything. You couldn't, and I looked it up. The production budget on it was like $100 million. And I'm like, where did the money go on this thing?
Actors.
And they were okay. Oh, I mean, all right. Kenneth Branagh was the best actor by far. The rest of them were okay. And the story was okay. It just made me mad.
Yeah, you told me about that a couple days ago, and I went to try and watch it because I was like, oh well, maybe I'll like it, and then we can spar on it. But I think I played it, and maybe I got 10 minutes in, 8 minutes. I just didn't care immediately,
And I should have did that.
and I just turned it off. I forget what I did after that.
Probably watched Tin Cup.
No, it wasn't that. I watched that. So,
I should have watched Tin Cup again. Damn it.
That's all right.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah. I wanted to see that movie simply because of the trailer. That had a very good trailer because it was just a very, they had the a cover of Policy of Truth by Depeche Mode, but Depeche Mode obviously didn't do the cover, but it had just that the typical trope that they're doing now in trailers. They take a popular song and they slow it down, and
they kind of reorganize it to fit the mood.
Yep.
Like Nirvana and the Batman.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, the Nirvana was pretty. I mean, that was pretty close, but like more like the Jurassic Park, to where they took the theme and then they just have that piano.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Thing,
I gotcha.
Piano
you're
undertone
right.
and stuff, but no, I like the Death and Nile trailer, but that's only 2 minutes, not 2 hours.
It's not 2 hours long, Jay.
I couldn't do 2 hours.
Oh my God.
I saw Gal Gadot and Armie Hammer, and then some
What do you
random actress that were trying very hard or something, and I was like, ugh. I'm not engaged.
Right. And what is it about Gal Gadot? I mean, she's hot. I get it. But if I'm being brutally honest, acting wise, she is okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
The only thing I've seen her in really has been
Wonder Woman.
Yeah. And I only saw the first Wonder Woman, and I thought she was good in that. Superhero movies are not exactly a premier piece that you would want to showcase acting range or skill.
Yeah. You know what she reminds me of? Vin Diesel. Because I saw Red Notice with her and The Rock and Ryan Reynolds.
Oh, yeah.
To me, Gal Gadot, I'm like, that's Wonder Woman. She's just playing Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
And Vin Diesel, I'm like, oh, he's playing Don.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Riddick. This is the Chronicles of Riddick. I'm like, no, you're Dom. You're Dom Toretto.
Mm-hmm.
You're playing Dom. You're always not. No. This is Riddick. I'm Riddick.
I'm Xander Cage.
Yeah, no, I'm Triple X. I'm like, no, you're Dom Toretto. You've always been Dom Toretto, and that's the only person you know how to play.
Yeah, and I mean, I forgot I saw Red Notice. I mean, all three of them were playing themselves, but yeah, I mean, I really haven't seen anything that Gal Gadot has been in. I understand she's been in some of the Fast and Furious movies, or that's where she kind of became noticeable. And got people notice her.
Yeah.
But yeah. I don't know.
Well, I don't recommend Death on the Nile. It's not a very good movie. Okay. I would recommend Tin Cup. Tin Cup's pretty good.
Tin Cup too. It's fun.
Yes. It's good.
Everyone does what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
So cool. This week, some people may have not heard because of the ruckus over Will Smith, but this I think got some airtime and people notice is Bruce Willis. Him and his family came out and said he has aphasia, which is a form of dementia or something that affects your communication or communication capabilities.
Right. A cognitive disease.
And to where he will be stepping away from acting. He didn't officially say he was retiring, but the way these things typically go, he's probably done, which is sad. He's young.
He's young compared to like Clint Eastwood, who's almost 100 and still doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's a shame. The kind of movies he's been putting out recently haven't been great. Red Letter Media did a nice couple of videos on the movies that he's been putting out.
And they did mention that they're going to have to do a retraction because they're in those reviews, they said, if by any chance, because they mentioned that in the movies he has an earpiece and he's being fed lines, if he has some sort of cognitive disease, that they would feel bad about it.
Yeah. And if you're listening to this, you're probably aware of Red Letter Media. And if you're aware of Red Letter Media, you probably have already seen those videos. However, if you haven't, don't give them shit in the comments because they made those videos, I kid you not, a week before that stuff came out about them. And I wouldn't be surprised if those videos actually had some kind of effect to where they
Maybe.
had to come out and say something because red letter media is pretty popular.
Oh yeah.
And to where it started, I think that conversation, there was like some rumors, I guess, apparently, when those videos came out, but no one knew for sure. And I think, I mean, those two videos might have bubbled up and someone said, all right, yeah, we got to say something, kind of a thing. But
yeah.
But we wanted to talk about this because he's taking a step away from acting. Let's assume he retires. I wanted to see what your favorite Bruce Willis movies are, your favorite roles that he did. What do you think people are going to remember him for?
People are going to remember Bruce Willis for, you can be an action hero and be just an ordinary dude. He brought that to the forefront. You didn't need to be just, a Sly Stallone or a Schwarzenegger or a Van Damme. Mm-hmm. You can just be a normal dude and don't have the 6-pack. You're just a regular guy. If you can just, throw some witty lines out there, entertain the folks, that's enough. Yeah. That's because come on, Die Hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Die Hard. I mean, yeah. No one else, I think, could have pulled off a receding hairline. What's the term now? Skinny fat. I told my wife that recently. I was like,
what does that even mean?
I was like, I'm skinny fat. It's you're skinny, but you're just not toned. So you got and
so now in order for you to look good, you got to be like
jacked.
Made of fucking bronze.
Yeah, you got to be carved out of wood.
You can't just be a normal dude.
No.
What the fuck happened?
So it's like dad bod. Dad bod's a little bit more of a gut.
All right. Well, he doesn't have a dad bod in Die Hard.
No, but he wasn't like ripped either.
No.
And but yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head to where it's definitely he's the everyman. And it was before he started doing Die Hard 5 to where he was just impossible to kill. And stuff like that. But I think that I think is when he was at his best, to where he was doing the quippy action person, to where he wasn't invincible, but he could present a humorous line and he's believable as an action star.
Yes. And did anyone deliver one-liners better? I wouldn't even, they're one-liners. It's like, the Schwarzenegger one-liner, like, stick around, after he's yeah. He did like stuff like, in Last Boy Scout, where he's like, it's the 90s. You can't just walk up and hit a guy. You got to say something cool first. Like lines like that, like cool, memorable lines like that.
I think he was the best at delivering one-liners because he had comedic timing.
Yeah.
And Stallone and Schwarzenegger, or if you get some other like musclehead, I mean, they're there to look intimidating, to where Bruce Willis came from comedy. He's a decent actor. Mm-hmm. He had that timing I think everyone else was missing.
Yeah. He made it seem like those lines were impromptu, not scripted. Mm-hmm. Like he just thought of them.
Yeah, he was very good at making it sound authentic.
Yeah.
And what I keep thinking, like one of my favorite roles he did was Die Hard with a Vengeance. More so, I think I like that more so than the original Die Hard. But the scene I keep thinking of is it cuts. They're in the park. They're trying to figure out the bottle puzzle, and something's happening. And then it cut like they come to the park. They see the suitcase with the bomb, and they're like, "Oh, okay. So we have a 3-gallon bucket and a 5-gallon bucket. We gotta make it so that's equal to like 2 gallons or whatever.
2.5 gallons or something.
4 gallons or
something like that.
And they're like, okay, all right. So they start working on it, him and Samuel L. Jackson, and then it cuts away to something. And then it cuts back. And it's like right in the middle of their argument. You're like, you said you knew. You said you fucking knew.
Yeah.
It's that, just that natural ability to deliver that kind of line, and just the timing of that situation is, I mean, not everyone, that could easily came off as bitching or it was frustrating, but it was like a humorous frustration, to where you immediately saw yourself. You could picture something like that happening similar in your life. And but yeah, one of my favorite things that he is able to do is that comedy that not a lot of other action people can do.
No, but he was also a very good actor, and like his dramatic roles, The Sixth Sense or Unbreakable. I think those so underrated, the performances in that. Like I think Unbreakable might be one of the greatest superhero movies of all time. I think so. It's probably in my top 5.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that, and it stems from Bruce Willis. He's so good in that movie, and I don't know if it was the idea or in M. Night Shyamalan's direction, but the movie was elevated because of Bruce Willis.
I liked Unbreakable. His dramatic roles like that, at first I enjoyed them. When he got older, like you could look up interviews with him being interviewed by the press or doing press runs and stuff like that for movies, to where he kind of has that like uninterested feel. Now I think he's bringing more to it in those movies, especially in Sixth Sense and Unbreakable, than just the I don't care vibe. For me, I mean, his dramatic stuff was fine sometimes. I liked better 12 Monkeys. I liked it better than that, and I liked 16 Blocks better.
I've seen that one time.
Which a friend of mine, I'll give him credit. He has a podcast too, the Brandon Peters Show. We watched that at Grauman's Chinese Theater. And
where's that at?
What? Really? Oh,
you mean in
Hollywood.
LA?
Yeah.
Oh, in Hollywood.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were referencing some sort of like Chinese theater. I have no idea about it.
I went out and visited him. It was like shortly in college, and we had the option to go see Doom or 16 Blocks. And
wait, Dune?
Doom.
Oh.
Doom. Yeah, the blockbuster with Carl Urban and The Rock. So we decided to go see 16 Blocks, directed by Richard Donner. And he's like, you know what? They could have changed his name to John McClane, and that would have been the best wrap up to a Die Hard movie.
Yeah.
Or a Die Hard franchise. And since he said that, every time I watch that movie, I'm like, God, that's so spot on. That is so correct.
Yeah.
And Mos Def is in it. Good movie, but that's my that's probably one of my favorite. Like he had some personality in his dramatic role. He wasn't quippy in that. It was just more of a serious, like an exhausted person kind of, but I didn't feel like he was as bored. I felt like he was bringing something a little bit more so than what he did in Unbreakable or Sixth Sense, which is usually like all right, well, let's go over here now kind of a thing, like very mild-mannered, stoic.
Gotcha.
Kind of.
So you weren't as impressed with his dramatic work as I am?
No.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah. I mean, his comedy always spoke to me more. And
there's no doubt his comedy's way better than his dramatic acting for sure.
And I liked another movie I liked for his drama, dramatic parts was Moonrise Kingdom. I thought he was decent in that. Some of his line delivery, he mentioned, I forget what the line is, but the kid asks him, he's like, oh, what happened to your wife or whatever, like, oh, she didn't love me anymore, or something. Like he delivered some kind of line, you actually believed it or whatever. But yeah, usually I wasn't that impressed by his dramatic acting that much.
Oh, Pulp Fiction too. He's good in that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I guess that would be considered.
He's not really funny in it.
No. Yeah, he's just kind of like a normal.
Yeah. Well,
very normal guy.
He did change what you thought of action heroes. No doubt about it.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt about it. And man, are they entertaining. All the Die Hards, well, not all of them, but A Good Day to Die Hard. Did you ever see that one?
Yeah. Wait, Good Day to is that
it's the fifth one.
The Russia one?
I went 30 minutes in and I turned it off.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it.
I watched it in theaters. So, I've never walked out of a theater.
You were close to it?
No, not in that movie. But I just never walked out of a movie in theater. So I saw it in theater, so I didn't leave.
Gotcha.
I didn't turn off.
You've never walked out of a...
No.
Never?
No.
Wow.
Because fuck them. That's why.
Because fuck...
I'm going to sit there and watch their piece of shit. No, joke's on them. They got my money and my time.
Yes. That's right. Last Airbender.
Yep.
I walked out.
You walked out?
Couldn't do it.
Yeah.
That's the only time I can think of. Right? Yeah. Last time it's. I felt like my soul left my body, Jay.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't do it.
Yeah. See, I just get pissed. So I'll just sit there and I'll stew, and then it'll just get worse. And then your poor sister has to listen to me.
Yeah, great. She has to. Oh God, got to make him a bottle when I get home.
Yeah,
rub his feet so he just doesn't
and tuck him in at night.
Yeah, poor baby.
But that doesn't happen too often.
Yeah,
I think the last movie that happened was Spectre. And I was just
mad.
Yeah,
really.
So mad.
That's interesting. It wasn't that bad.
They ripped off the twist of the story. They ripped off of Austin Powers, with Blofeld being his brother.
Oh,
it's just, I don't know. The mid 2000s or the 2010s just had this horrible cliche of, let's take this giant world that we have and shrink it down to only being taken into account a select group of people. So you had, and all movies suffered from that. So you had James Bond did it with, Blofeld, let's make him his brother. That's interesting. No, it's not. It's lazy. It's lazy writing is what it is. And it doesn't make sense. Like, really? Like, what are the odds?
That's a
like
good
kind
point.
of a thing. And why can't it just be like, what's more scary? Like, oh, it's my brother, or, oh, it's just a random person that you have no idea who they are.
You're right.
I mean, one of the best villains of the past 15 years was Heath Ledger's Joker. Didn't know anything about him.
Right. And you still don't.
Yeah, you still don't.
Yeah.
You don't need to. It's just a random person.
Mm-hmm.
But they did the same thing with the Amazing Spider-Man. They made the whole thing to where, instead of Peter just being bit by a spider, it's, well, his father was a scientist and was working, and Peter's DNA just is the only one that could have worked with the biter, the spider, and all. No, it's crap. It's crap. It's not. It's forcing connections.
It's not elevating
trying
the story.
to make it sound mysterious and everything. No, just leave it.
You don't have to connect all the dots.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not a mystery. It's like, it was an accident that happened. And that's part of the charm of Spider-Man. It's where anybody could be Spider-Man because it was an accident. Not, well, if your father's a scientist and is working on a radioactive spider, and then it just takes part of your DNA and he builds that part of the.
That doesn't even make sense.
It kills it. Yeah, it sucks.
Doesn't even make sense.
It sucks because Harry Potter, huge success.
Yeah.
Because anybody could be a wizard. That was what kids were drawn to when they read the books and they watched the movies. Like, oh, he didn't even know that he could be a wizard.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody could fill in there. Neo in the Matrix, anybody could be the one.
Mm-hmm.
It's getting that audience buy-in, or being able to see yourself as the
inserting yourself into the story. Yeah.
Exactly. And shrinking the story like that is it's lazy. It doesn't make it more interesting.
It's very soap opera-y.
It is.
It's like Young and the Restless.
Yeah. What are we talking about?
I don't. Bruce Willis?
Oh yeah. The hell did we get the
squirrel?
Oh yeah. But yeah, so I've never walked out of a movie theater. I just sit and stew. But yeah, I didn't like Spectre. I liked it 1 degree more after No Time to Die. But anyways, back to Bruce Willis. But no, I liked his. I think I have Fifth Element. I think is probably one of his.
That is so over the top.
It is, but
it's good.
Yeah,
it's very imaginative.
It's fun.
Yes,
you can tell he's having fun with it. And I mean, Fifth Element is not, I don't think it's his best performance. I think it's probably one of his better movies, but Luc Besson and Chris Tucker and all those, that was definitely a combined effort.
I remember seeing the trailer of that and just thinking, what the hell? This looks awesome. Now the effects are a little dated, but it reminded me of Blade Runner. First time I saw Blade Runner, the trailer of Blade Runner. And then Fifth Element comes up, and I'm like, wow, what a trailer. I want to see it right away. Yeah. And yeah, when it came out, I just wasn't expecting it to be so goofy.
Yeah.
Because the trailer was serious. That movie's goofy,
Mhm.
but it's goofy in a good way.
Yeah. It's enjoyable. It's fun.
What the hell is Gary Oldman doing in that movie?
Whatever he wants.
There's like a Tennessee
He can
Tennessee
go
oil
for
man.
righties and lefties. You got your
Yes.
hand in a flamethrower. My personal favorite.
Like, what is he doing? He's got like a plastic, like I don't even know what the hell that
plastic
thing is.
over his
It's like
holding his
to hold
wig
his
on.
part. I don't know.
so good. Multipass. That's what that was the movie I first realized that the trope of Luc Besson having some girl in a lingerie shooting something. It was usually in like because you had La Femme Nikita.
That's his. That's right.
You had Fifth Element, and then the Transporter movies, not directed by him, but they were produced by Luc Besson. Random lady in a lingerie wielding guns, kind of a thing. Like that was like his
thing.
Like it was like his Michael Bay has explosions and that 360 camera movement.
That's right.
He has
J.J. Abrams has lens flares.
Yep.
That's right.
Everyone's got their thing, and he's got femme fatales and lingerie shooting guns.
That's right.
And
America. Even though he's French.
Yeah, even though he's French. But yeah, Death Becomes Her.
Yeah,
that was another one that I liked. That was
that's like the definition of a dark comedy.
Mm-hmm. The first thing I always think of, because I remember when I first saw that, the only thing I saw him in was Die Hard, and I saw him in Death Becomes Her, and I remember him looking older in that. Like his hair was a little bit more thinner. I mean, he had glasses. He was presented as a nerd and a doctor, so he wasn't as youthful looking. And I thought, I was like, oh, he's looking really old. And I felt so sad when I was like 8 or something like that. And I was like, oh, he's getting older. But the 7 years, not 7, but 4 years later, he's in Die Hard with a Vengeance. It looks exactly the same. Yeah. So
same guy.
But yeah, that for some reason, whenever I think of Death Becomes Her, I was like, oh, that's the first time I felt sad about someone being older or getting older or thinking they're getting older. It's just a
strange
weird
realization.
Yeah, it's just a weird thing that happened at that time.
Wow.
But
well, he was your hero. He's the Die Hard guy.
He was. I like him. It's fun. But yeah, it sucks what's happening to him.
I know.
More power to him. Hopefully, he can be comfortable for forever. So, but I enjoyed his movies.
Of course, yeah.
The other thing, any more on Bruce Willis?
No.
The other item that came up is Jim Carrey has not officially announced it, but he brought up the very strong possibility that he may be retiring. So, again, he hasn't officially announced it, but he said, I have enough and I've done enough.
I think he's been on this train for the past couple of years now.
Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, there's some people that just say, oh, I'm never doing this again. And then they show up for Sonic Part 2. But he said after Sonic, he's like, that very strong possibility that'll be his last movie.
Did you see his, I can't remember what year. I think it was the 2016-ish Golden Globes where he goes on.
ZZ Top?
Yes.
Did he have his beard?
He's got the beard.
Yeah.
He's got the beard. And he's presenting something.
Mm-hmm.
And he's they're like, 2-time Academy Golden Globe winner Jim Carrey. And he gets up there and he goes, I'm 2-time Golden Globe award winning Jim Carrey. I'm not just some guy up here talking to you. And when I go to bed at night, I'm not just a normal guy going to bed. I'm 2-time Golden Globe winning Jim Carrey, getting some well-deserved shut-eye. And he goes, and when I dream, I just don't dream any old dream. I dream of being 3-time Golden Globe winning Jim Carrey. He goes, because then I would be enough. It would finally be true. And I could stop this awful search. It's just fucking perfect. I love it. Anyway, he's taking a shit on, the awards and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I think at that moment is when he's over it. He's over it. I'm making movies just to pay the bills and retire, and the rest is history kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if he needs to pay the bills because, I mean, I remember he was being paid $20 million per movie, and this was like in the 90s.
I know. The cable guy.
Yeah. And
have you heard the story of his dad? And it's so cool.
No.
His dad, I think he died of cancer when he was, I think, 10 or 11.
Mm-hmm.
And before his dad died, he was very into, he knew he was going to be a comedian, and that was his dream. And he grew up very dirt poor, not a lot of money. And he told his dad, one of these days, Dad, I'm going to buy you everything, and I'm going to make millions of dollars and all that stuff. And then when he got cable guy, 20 years down the road, and he wrote a blank check and for $20 million because that was his salary, and he put it next to his dad's gravestone. It's just like a nice little, yeah, it's cool.
Nice. I like that. What do you think his legacy is going to be?
I wrote something down here. Has there ever been a run of success in a span of 4 years? So from 94 to 98. So this is when like prime Jim Carrey.
Yeah. What 4 movies came out during that?
No. It's not 4 movies. It's 8 movies, Jay.
Oh.
Here, I'm going to list them off.
Yes.
Ace Ventura, Dumb and Dumber, The Mask, Ace Ventura When Nature Calls, Batman Forever, Cable Guy, Liar Liar, The Truman Show. Every one of those movies was a box office crazy success.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of them are like Dumb and Dumber is one of the best comedies ever made, hands down. Truman Show. I love The Truman Show. Truman Show is great, and that was his like departure from comedy into, well, there's comedy in it, but it's a dramatic role. Yeah. But I mean, that's unmatched. I can't think of a actor with that number of films in a span of 4 years. It was so successful.
Well, not even 4 years, but just, I mean, even thinking about it in 8 films.
Yeah.
8 films in a row of being, I mean,
just
maybe.
Bam.
Maybe Tom Cruise. I'm trying to think
You're
of
throwing a Days
star.
of Thunder. I mean, what was that stupid Ron Howard movie he made where they're Irish and they don't even have Irish accents? Remember that?
That movie's not stupid.
Oh my gosh.
That movie is. I love that movie.
Do you really?
I do. I
can't get past the Irish accents. Come on.
No, the accents suck. But
we have to go get the potatoes. Hurry up.
Land.
Get the misses. It's like so bad. I have just now a better Irish accent than Tom Cruise did in that movie.
But I like that movie. It's a childhood thing. I watched that so many times when I was younger. I like the journey of it.
Gotcha.
It was
what's the movie called? I can't even.
Far and Away.
Far and Away. Okay.
Yeah. I enjoy it.
I'm shitting on your childhood.
No,
I'm so sorry.
No, don't feel sorry. I'm not apologizing for liking it. I like that movie. I watched it, I think, a couple of years ago with your sister because she hadn't seen it. I don't think she had seen it before.
But no, that's a fair point. Tom Cruise, I mean, yeah, he had a run.
Yeah, but I mean,
but there was some stinkers in there.
Yeah, and I mean, Eddie Murphy had a pretty good run of things, but I don't think it was as strong as what Jim. Yeah. I mean, Jim Carrey was the funniest person in the 90s. I don't think there was anyone. I mean, you had David Spade and Chris Farley in the 90s. I mean, and Tommy Boy and Black Sheep are great, but it wasn't as popular as that, especially for people our age during that time.
There's no doubt that Jim Carrey was the top star, I would argue.
Mm-hmm.
You could argue between him and Will Smith maybe as being like the top, because Will Smith had that run of Independence Day, Men in Black, Enemy of the State, just hit after hit after hit.
Yeah. And
Bad Boys, duh.
Yeah.
But no, Jim Carrey, everything, just one after another. And I think after Truman Show, he made, Man on the Moon. By the way,
The
The Majestic,
which I like. The Majestic. I saw that and I was like, oh, that's a good little movie.
Yeah,
I like that.
Oh, Frank Darabont, by the way, who directed the best movie ever made in Shawshank Redemption.
It's a pretty good movie. I don't think it's his best movie, but it's a pretty good movie.
And then How the Grinch Stole Christmas. I mean, just massive hit at Bruce Almighty.
Yeah, I have. I'll go into the ones I like most, but I mean, do you think? And I asked you this before. Do you think he's going to? Do you think people will look back 30 years from now and be like, Jim Carrey, one of the best, funniest people?
I think so. But I get where you're going here, and I'll let you talk about it. But do I? Yeah, I think he made his impact on comedy. Okay. There's no doubt.
I mean, comedy's hard just by itself, and comedy is hard for it to remain timeless. To where there's some Jerry Lewis movies, like some of the icons of comedy that everyone's like, oh, Jerry Lewis, and then you have Gene Wilder. You have, I mean, comedy gets dated very easily. A few comedies can remain timeless. I don't know. I think Dumb and Dumber may be one of those movies that can be timeless. I don't know if it is timeless or if it's because we watched it so many times when we were younger. Ace Ventura, When Nature Calls, at least I tried watching that. I couldn't do it.
Couldn't even finish it.
I was just like,
So
I mean, it feels dated to me. It was such over the top comedy, like very, very performance. I'm goofy. Style of comedy.
The scene with the rhino, though, where he gives, I can't not cry laughing. It's so good, Jay.
That is pretty good.
That is good. That's timeless. There you go.
Because
sounds he's making. Oh my god. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
You know what a movie is like that is Billy Madison. It's the same kind. Like I can't watch Billy Madison anymore and get because it's not that funny.
Yeah, it's it's stupid humor.
Right. Loved it when I was 9 and 10.
And I haven't seen. I think this is comedies in that era. The one that I've seen recently, all the way through, and this is. I mean, I don't even know when the last time I saw this was. Probably Dumb and Dumber, and the writing and the Farrelly brothers are you. I mean,
they're solid. They're
really good. And I think some of that timeless credit definitely goes to them.
Yes.
With their writing and their directing. I feel like, though, I don't know if he'll be looked upon as like one of the funniest people in cinema just because his run was so short. It was 4 years. Yeah, it was 8 movies. But right after you had that 4 years, then we started getting into the SNL and Roadhouse, Road Trip, Old School,
like Todd Phillips, Judd Apatow.
Yeah, Todd Phillips, and then you had hold on. All right. You had Todd Phillips, you had Judd Apatow. So you went from kind of like Men Behaving Badly style of comedy with Todd Phillips and Old School and The Hangover, and then that slowly went into the Judd Apatow, which is more improv based and stuff like that, which I don't think those are going to hold up as well either. But comedy moves so fast.
It does.
And what he was so popular in such a short amount of time, I feel like it's going to end up being like a time capsule. I'm not sure. I mean, obviously only time will tell. It'd be interesting when our kids 10 years older watch those movies if they find them funny.
They'll find Ace Ventura funny.
I think they'll find Ace Ventura funny now.
Yes.
It is very over the top animated humor. So I think children would easily laugh at that, not knowing what anything is meaning, but he's talking out of his butt and he's doing funny movements, and that's just funny to little kids. Now, when they're teenagers, are they still going to find that funny, or is it going to feel dated? Is it going to feel like, what the heck is? Because I've seen some Jerry Lewis stuff I don't think it picks up on the. I've seen some Jerry Lewis stuff. God damn. Hold on. Are we done? We up to date? Christ. I've seen some Jerry Lewis stuff that I'm just like, all
like
right.
The Nutty Professor.
Yeah,
it's a little dated.
Yeah, and to where,
or like the Three Stooges, like who's going in and watch? I can't wait to. I'm gonna pop in the Three Stooges and chuckle it up for a couple of hours.
I think it'll end up being that's what we liked when we were kids, because I remember when we were that age in the 90s, I would say, oh, Jim Carrey's so funny, and I'd show my dad, like, oh, he's so funny watching it, and
didn't even laugh.
Didn't laugh once. And he just thought he was stupid. And that's the way
I can totally see your dad.
Yeah.
He's
that's stupid.
Yeah.
Looks like an asshole. But so, I mean, that's what I'm afraid of. But I mean, having said that, I think Me, Myself, My Irene, I think that's probably my favorite movie that he did.
It's pretty good.
Because his over the top comedic style, like that's a movie I can see watching over and over again. I mean, again, I think that was a Fairley
Brothers again.
And
yeah,
but just his switching between personalities and how different those two personalities are. It gets me every time when he's like looking at that kid, and he's like, the fuck you looking at, Four Eyes? And he like stands like the kid drops his drink.
I think Liar Liar's time was it's such a good concept for a movie. It's so simple. And the situations that I wish my dad couldn't lie for 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a lawyer.
Yeah, that is more of a toned down.
Yeah. He's not as over the top. And I mean, yeah, it's a role for Jim Carrey, but he's not Ace Ventura in that movie.
Correct.
At all.
Yeah, no, I like that.
Yeah.
Me, Myself, I'm sorry, I got
wait.
this
Let's talk about Me, Myself, and Irene some more.
I like has one of my favorite lines. It's like, I can't believe it. You're disgusting. You took advantage of me, and you knew, like, you just said what you wanted to say just so you could have sex with me. And he's like, but you got to look at it from my point of view. I was horny. I about to spit out my drink the first time I heard that. And I love that movie so much. But no, I mean, that movie, Bruce Almighty, is another one. And then for his like dramatic stuff, I would say Truman Show, Man on the Moon. Since that documentary came out, I could not watch the documentary.
Yeah, not a fan of it.
Yeah, if that was Jim Carrey's way of a joke, like, oh, I'm going to be so pretentious in this,
so method.
Yeah,
I'm just going to
go so over the top, like, oh, well, I was Andy, and I'm going to act like I was Andy. But in the back of his head is like, what kind of idiots are going to eat this shit up? Like, kind of a thing. Bravo, you did a good job, I guess. But I mean, documentary aside, the movie itself is very entertaining.
It is.
I thought he worked very well in that role.
Yes, absolutely.
And
I think Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind is very good.
I've only seen that once.
It's very creative, and he's great in it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I remember him being good. I remember liking it. I remember liking it because of Michel Gondry directed that, and I love
he and like Spike Jonze and God, who's the other guy that I'm thinking of?
Music video.
No, he's a very eccentric. He's a writer, director. He wrote that. Oh man, I can't think. Like One Night in Poughkeepsie or something with Philip C. Hoffman. And anyway, I'll look it up here. But yeah, Michel Gondry and Spike Jonze.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, to me, they're like interchangeable almost. Like their movie styles. Like Being John Malkovich reminds me of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind.
Mm-hmm.
Adaption reminds me of that.
Yeah. And it might have been just the times too, because there's a lot of movies that came out. I mean, they all came out around the same kind of
same time period.
Charlie Kaufman.
Charlie Kaufman, thank you.
Yeah,
that's the one. That's the one.
Yeah, no, Eternal Sunshine was good. Yeah, and I mean, I haven't seen a lot of like his dramatic stuff, like the Number 23. I never saw some of his.
It's not good.
I mean, I don't. Yes Man, I thought was good.
Like Fun with Dick and Jane. It's kind of just
yeah, and
safe choices. Just kind of fits his niche in there a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say after Eternal Sunshine, like his movies were okay.
Yeah,
safe choices.
And
Lemony Snicket's is another like okay, safe choice.
Yeah, and I felt like, I mean, I don't know if he saw the writing on the wall. That's why. I mean, maybe he just got done. He got tired of doing comedy.
Yeah.
I mean, his sense of humor wasn't.
Yeah, he wasn't a joke. He wasn't like a jokey joke writer.
Mm-hmm.
Like the setup and then the punchline. It was just the punchline.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm just gonna be bombastic and boisterous and make people laugh with my performance.
Mm-hmm.
So I see what you're saying. It's not like Eddie Murphy.
Yeah. Yep.
He's quick-witted and line after line after line kind of thing, and
it's very slapsticky.
Yes,
and physical humor.
It kind of reminds me of. I don't want to call him a one-trick pony, but it's sort of like Gallagher. Like his shtick is, I want to make you laugh by smashing watermelons.
Yeah, and that's how he makes you laugh.
And that's how Jim Carrey makes you laugh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But he made me laugh.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said,
yeah.
Dumb and Dumber is, I'm sorry, that is a comedy classic in my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Untouchable. That'll always be funny to me.
Did you ever see the sequel?
I did.
Was it good?
It's okay.
Yeah.
They just seemed like old.
Yeah.
Like tired.
Like they weren't into it.
Yes. Then it felt like something they had to do, not something they wanted to do.
Did the Farrelly brothers direct?
Yeah, they did.
They did.
Yep. And there was a lot of gags in there. I mean, I've only seen it once. It's been a while, which kind of goes to show why, I thought it was okay. I've only seen it once. I've seen Dumb and Dumber. I watch that every year, at least once.
And part of it too. I mean, you have Dumb and Dumber. You built it up for 20 years, 25 years, and then they come out with the sequel. Of course, it's not going to live up to that.
I know, but they had gags in it that just you could tell they were just doing it to do the gag.
Mm-hmm.
Like well, we Harry's tongue was stuck to the pole last time. Well, how about we stick his testicles on something this time? Oh, that'll be crazy. It's up the ante. Sequel. It was that kind of thing. Yeah, I mean,
see, I don't know that. I figured I was hoping the Farrelly brothers would have done something different, because I think sequels, especially that being that long, changing the kind of movie it is. I think sequels are really only successful once you do that. Especially after a certain period. I mean, it's hard to do it with movies that are iconic, like Dumb and Dumber. To where I feel like they should have changed the comedy up a little bit, because the Farrelly brothers have range as far as, I mean, you're over the top stuff with like Dumb and Dumber, or
there's something about Mary with the jizz in the hair.
So yeah, but I mean, and that movie gets goofy at some points. Kingpin is really goofy.
Yes.
But then you have like the Heartbreak Kid. And that's Farrelly.
That's Farrelly brothers. Yeah, you're right. It's not overly goofy.
Yeah. And to where the comedy is more like the situation as opposed to, and like people kind of playing it straight. And you have some absurdity in there. So I was surprised that, they just didn't want to kind of create a different kind of movie. And what I'm thinking of is like, you have Alien, and great horror film, but the sequel is an action movie.
Mm-hmm.
You have Terminator, same director of sequel, but you have Terminator, which is a sci-fi, had some action in it, but I mean, it's kind of a dark sci-fi,
borderline horror.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely like scary.
Yeah.
And then you have T2, which is
one of the best action movies ever made.
Yeah, and so I think like changing the movie slightly for the sequel, making it a little bit of a different thing, I think works.
It felt like they wrote situations, and then they let Jim and Jeff Daniels just
do what they want.
Do what you want to do. Do what you want to do, but here's where we want it to start, and here's where we want it to end. You fill in the gaps. That's what it felt like.
Oh, yeah.
barely remember what the story is about, Jay. That's how memorable it is.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. Well, one thing I wanted to bring up since we're talking about Jim Carrey. So Robin Williams, Jim Carrey, Adam Sandler especially with Uncut Gems that came out a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to pose this question to you because I think it's interesting conversation, Jay. Is it easier for comedians to do drama than vice versa?
Yes.
Not a ton of Leo DiCaprio or Brad Pitt starring in Ace Ventura nowadays.
Yeah. Brad Pitt's comedy is the stoner person.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's easier for, I definitely think it's easier for comedians to do drama than vice versa.
Why is that?
I think it's timing. And that's a lot of it. I mean, just timing and being able to be goofy. The problem, and I don't know, I'm not an actor, but it's maybe dramatic actors think too highly of themselves to where they take themselves too seriously. I think comedy is probably one of the hardest things you can do. Not that drama isn't hard, but I think there's a sense of timing. There's you need the quickness,
right? And it's hard to master that. And I think a lot of comedians are so great is because they've experienced some sort of like I don't know, not that every comedian's life is traumatic or whatever, but they've experienced something in their life that is traumatic or depressing or whatever the case may be, and to fill that or jump the hurdle, they're just naturally funny. They're trying to make light of the situation.
Yeah, and I think not that dramatic actors don't have hardships or don't have that, but they're also not, they draw on that a lot more. That's where they get their dramatic chops. Or if they're reaching back in their own experiences for something, it's hard to it's easy to do that. To be funny, you're not drawing back on a past experience of being funny. It's recreating a humorous situation. It's presenting something, knowing how something is funny, because, and part of that's in the editing, part of that's in the acting, to where even if you're having a conversation with somebody, you could just be reciting a story, and the way you recite it and the speed that you recite it is going to depend if it's funny or not. I mean, there's so much things that go into that, as opposed to, oh, this is serious because there's a sick puppy. It's serious kind of a thing, to where there's nothing for them to draw back on, to where comedic actors, they can easily draw back on a past experience to remind them or to get that emotion over. Or if that sense of, like, if they have to cry or if they have to have that sense of loss or whatever, because everyone experiences that.
Everyone does.
But their whole craft is from creating something funny as opposed to creating something that is inspired by something they're aware of or something that they've experienced. So that's why I think it's probably the difference, is that for comedy, you're making something out of thin air, and
it takes practice.
It does. It takes practice. It doesn't, and the chemistry there too. I mean, you got to have other funny people, and it could be the director, could be, but I mean, I think.
And I'm trying to think of somebody who started off dramatic and then just hit
Nielsen,
hit their niche in comedy. Really?
Yeah, he was Airplane is one of my favorite comedies. Everyone in that movie played it straight. I think majority of the people in that movie were known as dramatic actors.
Really?
Yeah. And they were picked for that movie because they were dramatic actors. And that, because everyone in that movie plays the straight man.
They do.
The most absurd shit is happening all around everybody, but everyone is just dead serious. And they just let the situation be the funny thing. It's not. but Leslie Nielsen, I think this is the first one that comes to my mind because he was, I forget what TV show he was on, but he was just known as a dramatic actor. And then after Airplane, I think he was doing comedy.
I think there's some actors that are started off strictly drama. Now they're not really comedic actors, but they're very funny in their movies. Mm-hmm. Like right off the top of my head, Robert Downey Jr.
He was on SNL.
I know he was, but when I was introduced with Robert Downey Jr., it's like star of Chaplin and U.S. Marshals. He's in these dramatic movies. Doesn't really touch comedy. Now he's, I mean, the MCU as Iron Man, it's not a comedic role, but he's funny in it. Another name, Chris Hemsworth. I never thought that Chris Hemsworth was going to be like a comedic star, but he's very funny in his roles in his movies. Channing Tatum. He started off as like the everyday romantic lead in rom-coms or what have you, and now he's starring with Sandra Bullock in the latest. It's a strictly comedic role.
Yeah, and he may have always been funny too, but in some of the, I mean, I think some people are just funny.
That's right. That's my point. Maybe it's just natural. Yeah. You have to be natural at it.
And because Channing Tatum, I think has probably always been funny.
Probably.
And what was it, Step Up or something? I mean, it wasn't like he was a fuckboy on Step Up. Yeah. It was a Coach Carter. Like
that was his name, fuckboy.
But I think
boyfriend, fuckboy.
Yeah, I think part of that is just having to be, I mean, just always being funny.
Sorry. No, I'm just thinking someone's writing the script and fuckboy comes in.
Yeah. He steals the ball and doesn't listen to Coach Carter and he has to run laps.
Fuckboy comes in and starts doing the worm. Oh boy.
But no, yeah, I mean, maybe they're just born with it. Maybe it just comes more naturally to some people. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, time will tell. I think you bring up a good point though. I don't think he could go by the way of like Jerry Lewis and Three Stooges where his comedy doesn't really age all that well. I think there'd be some exceptions to that, like Dumb and Dumber. I think that's always going to be funny regardless of the generation. Liar, Liar.
Yeah, I mean, his lower key movies, like Ace Ventura is going to be tough to.
It'll always be funny to like 7 and 8 year olds because he's talking out of his butt on one of them.
Yeah, it's very.
It's very childish.
It is,
for sure, and
it's weird too because it wasn't. It's not, that movie is not made for kids.
It's definitely not.
So much shit in there.
There's a sex scene where like the room is basically shaking and all the animals are watching them, you know, and it's what's the song? The Awee-Moe, in the jungle.
In the jungle.
Yeah. That's playing in the background. And then the Finkel is Einhorn. Einhorn is Finkel. Come on, that's funny. That's good. Your gun is digging into my hip.
Oh God.
Hey Ace, you got more of that gum? Why don't you mind your goddamn business, man? Keep your mind out of my personal affairs.
Weird guy, Ace. Ventura. Yes, Satan. I'm sorry, sir. I thought you were someone else.
See, we still like it. We're reciting the whole damn movie.
It's funny. It's just I mean, of course, if you ask me, who's in the past 20, 30 years, who's going to be the comedy legacy out of that time period? I mean, Jim Carrey would definitely be in there.
Yeah, he'd have to be.
Him, Chris Farley, and David Spade, especially those two as a pair.
Yep. Adam Sandler came out with like The Water Boy and Billy Madison and
John
Happy Gilmore.
Candy. I mean, Will Ferrell. So
man, we could do a whole podcast about John Candy. I love John Candy.
Yeah, he was
what a treasure.
Do a whole podcast on comedians that came from Second City.
I know.
But yeah, no, it's I mean,
if he retires, great run.
What do you think his best movie is? He retires.
Ooh.
Do best comedy, best.
Okay.
No, actually, no. Best movie.
His best movie.
Yeah, his best performance. Because don't pick the best movie he was in. Pick the best performance he had in a movie.
Truman Show.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I'd probably have to. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. He's funny in it.
Yeah.
He's got some dramatic chops there.
I can see that.
Yeah.
I will agree.
I don't want to, but I will.
All right. Well, we're about an hour into this podcast.
Are we?
Yeah.
What we just talk about?
I forget. Here, let's start at the beginning. All right.
Don't do
Welcome.
It over.
All right. Okay. Top 5 favorite bed. Jesus. Top 5 favorite directors. So that's what we're talking about this week.
That's our feature.
Yeah, this is our feature segment.
That's what me and you spent our last week diving into.
Yeah, our top 5 favorite directors.
There's so many to choose from, Jay.
There are. I had a tougher time coming up with
this. Let's talk about the tough time that we had picking these, because I got to tell you, I spent way too much time thinking about this.
I did too. And I was talking about it with my wife. And
you talked about it with Christy?
Yeah, I was like,
I love it.
I was like, what do I do? Because I had 2 right off the bat that I knew were going to be on the list.
Right.
And those were the easiest. It was filling in the other 3.
Yep.
And I was trying to think, I was like, all right, how am I going to, I knew right off the bat, I'm not going to pick directors to where I like all of their movies, because that's impossible. There's not a single director on my list that I like all of their movies.
Yeah.
There's, I knew I tried to make sure it was about the directing too, not the writing, because I would try and find their style or their contribution to the movie, because it's very like, oh, it's such a good movie. Okay. But was that because of the writing? Like some of the acting portions of it, or the, Jesus.
Amber Alert?
Oh no. Oh, hopefully they find them.
I hope so.
So where was I? But yeah, I didn't want it to be about liking all their movies. I wanted to make sure it was about the actual directing. But I didn't want them to be all auteurs. I wanted to make sure I had some people, because you have some people that are just writer directors. That's a big recurring thing, to where, oh, they're writer directors.
Yep.
And to where I like some writer directors that write really, really well, and I like their movies because of the writing, not necessarily because of the directing. And so I wanted to make sure I was picking people that I like their directing, not necessarily the writing. So having said that,
wow, I am impressed.
Yeah.
So that is not how I.
No.
No.
So and that's what.
Damn it! Maybe I should have.
There's a lot of movies that I liked, and I have a list of people.
Yeah.
And I'll say this: I purposely did not pick Spielberg or Scorsese, because I like a very segmented portion of their filmography.
Okay.
And that's why I like them. To where, like, and I told Christy this, I was like, I love Spielberg from Jaws all the way to up until Lost World. And there's a couple of movies after that, like Catch Me If You Can and stuff, that I really enjoyed. But like, those are the movies that I liked. And is it because I grew up with them, or is it because I like it? I mean, he's a great director. He's definitely one of the best directors that's ever lived. Same thing with Scorsese. And Scorsese, same thing. I liked him from Goodfellas in '89 all the way through Shutter Island and all that. But
you didn't like Hugo? That was right after Shutter Island.
At least he tried. I like what he did with 3D.
Yeah.
I like that part of it. The story was, but I mean, that's not his fault, but I liked how he used 3D.
Yeah. I get what you're saying. So Scorsese and Spielberg, yes.
Yeah, Scorsese, Spielberg, I really threw out because I think they're in a category all their own. I mean, of course they're great. I wanted
You want to make the conversation more lively.
Well, that and like, I don't know. I mean, if we go into Spielberg, I'd rather talk about individual movies, not just him overall
as a director.
Yeah, as a director. But I had some honorable mentions. I'll touch on those really quick, and then I'll throw it over to you. You can talk about how you picked it. But some honorable mentions. Rob Reiner. He was very close to being in there just because Princess Bride. I picked him because of his ability to direct performances that elicit emotional responses. And because I liked him he did a 2010 movie Flipped, small movie.
Never saw it.
Pretty good. It's got the father from Frasier in there. The kids are whatever. I don't know who they are, but Anthony Edwards is in there. Pretty good little. It's about like first love, like these two kids. And then he did Princess Bride, which is great. When Harry Met Sally, which is probably one of my favorite romantic comedies. Of course, part of that could just be Billy Crystal, but Rob Reiner, he was in there. Like he was almost into the top.
Yeah, I mean,
5.
Stand By Me is one of my. It might be my favorite kids movie.
Mm-hmm.
About when you watch Stand By Me when you're like 11 or 12, you're just thinking, wow, these kids are the coolest kids.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I could talk like that, act like that. A great like journey movie.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Misery. Holy shit. Misery's good. That's a good movie.
Stand By Me is Rob Reiner has been quoted saying that's his favorite. He considers that his masterpiece.
It's awesome.
Mm.
Yeah.
So Rob Reiner was in there. I had Tony Scott is in it, which I think he's the more talented.
Do you like Tony Scott over Ridley Scott?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
There's one.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right.
I love one of Ridley Scott's movies, and that's Alien.
That's it.
That's it.
Just one.
Just one.
You didn't love The Martian.
I thought it was a good movie.
Okay.
But I mean, it's
okay.
Yeah. It's all right.
It's all right.
It's all right.
Wait, Thelma and Louise isn't on your top 20, Jay?
No. It's not. But Alien certainly is.
You know why I think you don't like deep down why you don't like Ridley Scott all that much is because he put Russell Crowe in pretty much every damn thing he did past 2000.
A little bit. Yeah. It's because he's British. Okay. And that's why I like Tony Scott because
Ridley Scott's Australian, right?
Huh? Is he?
Yes.
Oh. I thought they were from England. No? They're from Australia?
Yeah, I think so.
That's probably why he picked Russell Crowe for his.
You could have said anything. You know what? It's because he's from Kazakhstan. That's why I don't like him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would have made more sense than.
It would have been.
They all sound alike.
You know why I don't like him? It's because he's from England. Fucking redcoats.
Yeah, but no, Tony Scott's my favorite Ridley. Or my favorite.
Your favorite
Scott.
Ridley?
Yeah, my favorite Ridley. Better than his brother.
Yeah.
But that, and I feel like Tony Scott Ridley, I always felt like he was chasing awards. Where Tony Scott, I felt like I'm going to make a
good movie,
good entertaining
solid
movie.
Yeah, he made a bunch.
True Romance, The Last Boy Scout, Man on Fire, which I think is
very good.
Which in the 2000s too, he went into this weird like neon filter, like super hyper cuts and stuff like that. At least he was playing with, like he was changing it,
experimenting a little bit. Yeah, because that and Deja Vu
and Domino
are like the same sort of techniques to tell those stories.
Yeah, but Mike Nichols was in there. He directed The Graduate, which is one of my favorite movies. Probably one of the best edited movies, I feel like. And Richard Donner. That
almost made your list.
Almost made my list.
Are you a big Superman fan though? Like,
yes,
you are.
Oh, yes. That I think.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jay just gave me the side eye.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Those. See, because I'm a fan of Superman 1, Superman 2, and Superman Returns. Great.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. I think Bryan Singer did a good job mimicking that kind of style and that kind of feel. Brandon Routh, I thought, was a great Superman. But yeah, no, I think Superman 1 and 2 is great. That was one of the first movies I showed my oldest, and she loved it.
Really?
Yeah. She's like, I want to watch Superman again.
No shit.
Yeah. I mean, she didn't sit and watch the whole thing, but she was
was halfway attentive. Yes.
But yeah, I like Superman, which we could do a whole thing on that.
I haven't seen those in forever.
So good.
It's been forever.
I mean, it's just.
But Richard Donner is awesome.
Yeah, I mean,
Goonies.
You had Goonies, 16 Blocks with Bruce Willis. You had the Lethal Weapon movies. You had, he did Maverick. One of my favorite comedies with Mel Gibson, Jodie Foster, and James Garner. I watched the crap out of that movie when I was a kid. Love Maverick. He did. He had some humor chops. He's just a. But
did he do The Omen?
I think so.
I think he did The Omen, the original one. That's good.
I haven't seen it.
I know you're not a big horror fan, but it's good. Gregory Peck's in there.
Yeah.
And To Kill a Mockingbird, Gregory Peck. No, it's I remember seeing that as a kid and just being creeped out because Damien scared the shit out of me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the opening scene where the maid like, Damien, this is all for you, and she jumps to her death and like hangs herself.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's like in the first 5 minutes of the movie. It always stuck with me.
Never seen it. Spoiler alert: the maid dies in the first 5 minutes.
Shit, I know. You know what? Oh, by the way, Damien's the devil.
Yeah, I know that. Dominoes.
Yeah.
Dominoes.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are my honorable mentions, and it was tougher to come up with 5 directors than it was for 5 movies because my favorite movies always shift or whatever. But I was like, this is tough because I knew 2 right off the bat, and then everyone like the last 3, it was just interchangeable with everybody. I could find reasons for, and I'm like, wow, all right, but that's how I went about it. I wanted to make sure it was more focused on the directing, not so much of me necessarily liking the movie. Obviously, if the directors I picked, I like more than one of their movies.
Yeah.
It's not just, this is my favorite movie. So
it's got to be them.
So it's got to be that person kind of a thing. So, but yeah. How'd you go about it?
So I kind of went the same route, sort of. I had a couple criteria. They had to have made enough movies. So their filmography had to have been solid.
Mm-hmm.
Like in terms of the number of movies. They had to have like some sort of unique vision. And tailored to that is I have to, like, the second I know that they're coming out with a new project, I'm like, I got to see it.
Okay.
I have to see it. Could be anything like, this guy's coming out with a documentary on fermented cheese. And I'd be like, fuck yeah, when's it come out? That kind of director, you know?
Yeah.
And they've had to have directed what I consider a masterpiece, at least one movie.
Okay.
One masterpiece where I'm like, that's a masterpiece right there.
They have to have a masterpiece.
They have to.
I like that.
In my eyes, a masterpiece.
Okay.
I for sure know some of my choices aren't going to be a masterpiece in your eyes, Jay, but they are in mine.
There might be 1 or 2 that I don't think is. I don't think that. I don't know. Depends your definition. But
so that was the rubric of what I had to follow, and I had had a bunch of like honorable mentions. I like some directors that made great movies, but they just made some awful stinkers, like Zack Snyder. Off the top of my head, 300 I think is incredible. I think Watchmen is amazing. I can't stand Sucker Punch. I don't like his new one that just came out. So super boring.
Army of
the Dead. Dawn of the Dead's great. I didn't like the Legends of Ga'Hoole, that animated owl movie he made. That was just super boring to me. Robert Rodriguez. off the bat, El Mariachi, Desperado, From Dusk Till Dawn, Sin City, makes some of my favorite movies. But then he makes like Machete and Machete Kills and the Spy Kids movies, and it's just awful. And then there's some that almost made the list, but one person got a top notch over it. Like the Coen brothers almost made my list. The Coen brothers, I mean, come on. Their style is so unique. Their pacing is, the second you watch a Coen brothers movie, you know you're watching a Coen brothers movie because the pacing that's strictly Coen brothers. It's almost like an instrument.
And they write their own stuff too.
Yes.
So that's I didn't include them either because I'm like, well, do I like the writing or do I like the directing? Now, for Big Lebowski and Fargo, love the directing.
Yeah.
Lady Killers, it's their writing. If it's what was it? Burn After Reading, it's the writing. It's not. Well,
I put in here they made, so the Coen brothers, their filmography is there. But they've made some stinkers that I can't even watch anymore. Like I wrote in here, Lady Killers.
Yeah. You didn't like that?
No. I think it's the dumbest thing. I couldn't believe that they wrote that. Intolerable Cruelty with Catherine Zeta-Jones, and stupid movie. Hail Caesar. I'm like, it's the one that just came out a couple of years ago.
Yeah. Yep.
I mean,
Christine, I saw that in theaters.
It looks cool, but I'm like, is it a comedy? What is it trying to do here? What are you trying to do? And Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? I do not understand to the life of me why that movie gets so much praise.
But Dapper Dan, man.
It drives me insane. Even the music's okay. It won like 13 Grammys and it's like the best country music ever. I don't understand why that movie gets so much praise. It's so super boring to me.
But it's like the Odyssey.
My
God.
Odyssey
so that's, if you don't like it, you're not intelligent. So
funny story. People were like, you do realize like, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou is based on the Odyssey. I'm like, I think this movie came out when I was a freshman. I just read the Odyssey and I'm like, I don't see the parallels in the Odyssey and Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
The only parallels I saw was with John Goodman's character, the Cyclops.
Okay.
He had a patch over his eye.
Okay.
And I'm like, all right. But at the same time, it's like, oh, did you know it's based off like, most stories are based off of 7 or whatever, 6 different stories, like the Aristotle story, like Hero Journey or whatever. Everything's the same fucking story.
Right.
So
they had a bunch of clunkers in there that I don't enjoy watching, but like, Blood Simple, their debut is so well paced. It's such a good thriller. I know you're big into suspense. I don't know if you've ever seen Blood Simple.
I haven't. It's good.
It's so good.
Maybe that's the one that I watched that you say is
yes.
Watch Blood Simple.
Earmark that. Okay, so I'm watching.
Is it worth buying? Because I know it's on Criterion.
Yes.
And I do like Criterion.
Absolutely. It's worth buying. So I'll watch Open Range, you watch Blood Simple, and we'll tell each other what we think. You will fucking Jay, just made your night, man. You're gonna love that movie. But yeah, Blood Simple, Raising Arizona is so they made 2 comedies that I think are so funny. Raising Arizona and The Big Lebowski are just super funny. So good. Completely Coen brothers, by the way. No Country for Old Men and Fargo come on.
Yeah.
Maybe 2 of the best top 100 movies made in the past.
I like Fargo and Big Lebowski, and I like the fact that they made them very close to each other because they are 2 totally, like, they had one movie to where they threw all the colors, everything in there with the Big Lebowski, and then you have Fargo, which is so white, gray, and black.
That's right.
And it's
North Dakota, baby.
Yep. And to where you have like the most vibrant images on screen, and then you have the most dull.
Yeah.
But I like how they did that to themselves.
Yeah. So they're like, their style is hit or miss. It's more hit than miss, but their style is so quirky. Like the way they direct their actors and their dialogue. It's so very
the performances that they
very
get.
specific.
Yep.
Yeah. So they almost made my list. Some like they just haven't made enough yet, but I like them a lot. Like Alex Garland, who did Ex Machina and Annihilation. He's coming out with a new movie called Men. I don't know when it's going to be released. It's going to be this year. I can't wait to see that movie, but he hasn't made enough yet. Jordan Peele. I love Get Out. Us was okay, but his new one coming out called Nope. Like I instantly want to see it. Second, I want to go see it. Again, hasn't made enough movies. James Wan. I love James Wan. Anything he comes out with.
Did he do The Conjuring?
Yes.
I like The Conjuring.
Yes. He did the original Saw. He did Insidious is another great one.
Yeah, Saw was good too.
Yeah.
I remember,
Death Sentence with Kevin Bacon's a great like action thriller. Dead Silence is underrated, I think. He did the new Aquaman. He did Furious 7. So he's done, middling popcorn entertainment. But the new one he did, Malignant, which is batshit crazy. I don't know if you've seen it. It's crazy. But it's so James Wan that it clears the hurdle of, yeah, it's absurd, but it's good absurd because it's James Wan, and that's why you like it. But again, he hasn't made enough yet. And Martin McDonagh, so I had the rules here where you had to make a certain number of movies, but I love Martin McDonagh's directing and style. Like In Bruges. Have you ever seen In Bruges with Colin Farrell and Brandon Gleeson? And
I think I tried to watch it one time, but I don't think I finished it.
Oh my God.
Whatever reason.
If I grew up on a farm and was retarded, Bruges might impress me, but I didn't, and I'm not, so it doesn't. I mean, it's some of the greatest lines. It's so funny. Truth is, Harry, you're a cunt. You've always been a cunt. You're always going to be a cunt. Maybe have some more cunt kids. Like it's so.
I have seen it. I have seen it.
It's so good. It's so fun because
does the climax happen like in a church? Or
yes.
Okay. Yeah. I've seen it. I've seen it. Okay.
Yeah. So his style is so unique that where it goes from like crazy, like tragedy to like comedy, tragedy to comedies, like on a dime. Like he made 7 Psychopaths, and then he made 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri.
Yeah, I've seen 7 Psychopaths. That I really liked.
Yeah.
3 Billboards I thought was really good too.
Yes, but he just didn't make enough. He doesn't have a big enough filmography, so I couldn't do it. But I wanted to so bad because I love his. Like the second he comes out with another movie, I'm gonna go see it. He's so good. Anyway, big enough filmography. I had to like a vast majority of the films that they came out with, and they had to create one that I deem as a masterpiece.
All right. Good.
Yes.
That you're gonna say that masterpiece, because I picked movies or a movie from each one that I think represents what they do.
Okay.
Like the one, like if you're gonna watch one from them,
this is what you should watch.
This is what you should watch.
Okay.
So
that kind of tailors into this.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, do you want to go first? Do you want me to go
first? I want you to go first.
All right. Are we back? We are back.
Nice.
All right.
Yeah, Jace, what you got there?
So
no particular order, right?
Yeah, no particular order, although I'm going to go from roughly my least, like there's 2, like I said earlier, that I knew were going to be on there. I'll save those for the last.
Okay.
So I'll just kind of build up to it, because I definitely, with those 2, I were a lot more descriptive as far as the reasonings. The other ones are more of like just general touch points. But,
okay, sure.
And it's funny you mentioned Robert Rodriguez, because he is actually number 5.
Now, yeah, he almost made my list.
So, now the reason why I have it, this is very subjective as far as why he's on my top 5, is because I always wanted to make movies, and then with my job right now, I make videos from time to time. I went to college for it. I picked him because he's my favorite. I put like a little personality or like a little trait. He's my favorite underdog, low budget director.
All right.
And I like him because he can make the most with the least. If most people know who Robert Rodriguez is, if you don't, quick rundown, he went to Sundance. He made El Mariachi for $7,000 by being a part of a medical trial. That's how he funded his movie. And then him and his buddy shot it over the summer, and their goal was to sell it to the Spanish video market in Los Angeles. And because he was looking at Spanish direct-to-video movies, and he's like, I can make a better movie than that. And this guy is in college at the time, goes, makes a movie, and it blows up, gets to go into Sundance. He more or less ends up remaking it later on as Desperado.
Right. Yeah, it's the same movie.
Yeah,
for the most part.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
And but
by the way, I like El Mariachi more. I do.
I like the creativeness.
Yep.
In there. I think Desperado is just a polished version. There's some things in there that I think just work a little bit better in El Mariachi. Like it feels more real.
It does.
But yeah, I mean, I think he's better when he doesn't have a lot to work with, because he's very creative. And that's why I like him, is because if I was to give one person like a camcorder and make a very entertaining movie, he would be the first person I would give it to.
Okay.
And like I said, I love his creativeness, his effects and action. So like Once Upon a Time in Mexico, when he made that, like just his creative ways of solving problems, I really liked, and that's actually inspired me as far as if I come across something in a video that I'm trying to make, I think about it in a way to where, okay, well, I don't have this option. What could I do? I could do it like this. And he's kind of made me think of things like that. So in Once Upon a Time in Mexico, there was a scene of Antonio Banderas shooting people in a church. And because they went over the border, they couldn't bring live guns with them with blanks or anything because of whatever licensing they had rubber guns. And so it was just Antonio Banderas waving his arm up in the air with a rubber shotgun, and then he adds them in digitally, which everyone does that now. But not everyone, that wasn't common back then. It was still, you were using blanks. You were using practical effects to get those flashbangs things. Right. It wasn't common practice at that time yet. But plus the other thing is he wrote a book, Rebel Without a Crew, which if anybody is an aspiring filmmaker, I think that's book number one. It's his diary, as far as making El Mariachi.
Okay.
Have you ever read it?
No, never even heard of it.
It's awesome. I think I have it upstairs.
Rebel Without a Crew.
Yeah. And it has the full script that he wrote while he was in the medical testing thing. Cause he was in there, I think, for 3 months or a month.
What was he getting tested for?
I don't know. They took like some skin from behind his arm. So he has 2 football shaped scars on the back of his arm. But it was a medical trial for something. And I think he says it in his book, but he journals out. He's like writing the movie while he's in the medical testing thing, and they're going to pay him.
Wow, that's crazy.
Whatever amount of money. And but it talks about that. And plus his bonus features to all of his movies, he has like 10-minute film school, 10-minute cooking school. He's very open and very generous as far as his knowledge and sharing it with people, because this was before YouTube was huge. If you either had to go to film school, you had to figure it out on your own, or you could watch Robert Rodriguez bonus footage on. And that was one of the things, every time he came out with a new movie and it was released on DVD or whatever, he would what is he going to talk? Because he'd say editing. He'd talk about editing, and he would show examples from his movie, talk about how he went, what the problem was, how we solved the problem.
Right.
So he's very helpful in instructing and teaching others indirectly how to solve things, how to think about things when you're making your movie and stuff like that. And he has a loner vibe to him. I know some of was a Book of Boba Fett or something. He directed a couple episodes, and a lot of people hated that. And I mean,
hated that he directed something from Disney?
Because it had like the Power Rangers on motorcycles or something or whatever. But it was they just didn't like the episode. It was just weird, which I don't know if that was his choice. But I mean, some of the stinkers that he's had, like Sin City, looked cool. I wasn't a fan of it. I like what he represents more than anything. And I think he's extremely creative, and I think he's better when he doesn't have a lot. Once he started getting money and he had all the things at his fingertips, I think it
so
kind
you
of
probably do you like the Machete movies, like Machete Kill, because the production
Never
budgets are
I liked my favorite Planet Terror. It's probably my favorite movie that he did, because it's over the top, it's a little funny, it's got a sense of humor in it. He was very creative in making it. Like he's he did a good job. I think it was the better movie in the Grindhouse. So it's one of the few times I think he surpassed Quentin Tarantino, which my dream team would be Robert Rodriguez directing and Quentin Tarantino writing.
Okay. Happening from Dusk Till Dawn. Yeah.
Great movie.
It is a great movie.
And because I think the reason why I would like that prospective team to where if Tarantino's like, okay, I'm done making movies, but I'm going to write movies for now on. If him and Robert, like if Robert Rodriguez just direct, because I like long run time, but I think Tarantino lingers on things way too long. But Robert Rodriguez is good about keeping pace, keeping things moving. He's like, no, let's not lose the audience. Let's make it energetic. Let's keep things moving. And I think those two together would be fantastic if they did more movies.
That's an interesting point.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I like what he represented and how he, the creative ways he went about it. Because I mean, now anyone can take a cell phone and make a movie. Tangerine was shot on a iPhone.
Yep.
And so the amount of tools that exist now definitely did not exist 15 years ago, 10 years ago. I mean, it's
let alone 30 years ago.
Yeah. And is great. But yeah, Rebel Without a Crew, I recommend getting that. It talks about him all the way through editing and stuff like that.
Because he edits all of his
He
movies,
does everything. Right? He does the score. He does. I mean, and that's in some of his 10-minute film schools. He shows off his studio at his house in Austin. And he's like, oh, yeah, so I come over here, I strum on the guitar, and now it's in Pro Tools, and then I can blah, blah. And then he's just modulating and working as he's talking to you on camera. And I mean, very creative guy. And his kid movies and stuff, he always kind of did that. He did more adult stuff, and then he would do a kid movie and flip flop back and forth. Some of his short films were actually family films that he did in film school. There was one I think called Bedhead or whatever that he did that I liked a lot.
Bedhead.
Yeah. It was like a 5-minute. He used the siblings for the actors and they were kids. So he just made family films.
So this guy obviously loves the process of filmmaking.
Like, he loves the art of it. Like just the solving of the problem, which I see myself similar aspects. I'm not a fan of shooting things. I hate shooting things. I like editing. But I know how to shoot something and I know how I need to shoot it so I can edit it how I want to later. So it's that I feel like I wouldn't have gotten to that point without reading what he wrote and learning what he had on his DVDs and stuff like that. So I feel just solving things creatively. I think that's the fun part of it. And I think he enjoys that.
Obviously.
And I enjoy that as well. So that's why he's my number 5.
Nice.
Yeah. But Planet Terror, if you're going to watch one, I'd say Planet Terror.
I disagree. I think Death Proof is the more superior.
No one thinks that. No one.
That car chase is amazing.
But you got to sit and wait for 4 here's with Death Proof. You got to sit and wait for 4 girls to talk.
Yep. Jay, you just gotta love that sweet dialogue, Jay.
Yeah, sitting at a table talking.
That's right.
And then they get in a car, die. And what happens? You meet 4 new girls, and you got to sit and listen to them talk.
Wait a second. Are you saying you don't like to listen to women talk, Jay? That's what I'm getting out of this.
If there was a movie,
there's so much toxic masculinity coming off of this man. God, it's like sitting next to Burt Reynolds or something.
Would it be better if it was 4 dudes sitting around talking? Absolutely. All right. Top 5 directors.
Oh, Jesus. All right. Yeah. No particular order here. I'm just going to go down the list. Sam Raimi.
He was one that
I think that he is the most unique director from a visual perspective ever.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say ever. Yeah. Everything that he's done, I just enjoy. They're not necessarily hits, but he went through like a weird, if you don't know who Sam Raimi is, he did, Evil Dead, the Evil Deads, the trilogy,
Spider-Man movies.
Oh yeah. Those little things called Spider-Man, that whole trilogy, the original one with Tobey Maguire, the good ones. And then he had that little period after he made Army of Darkness where he did like The Quick and the Dead, and then he did The Gift, A Simple Plan, and
Darkman.
Darkman's so underrated.
Darkman is that is a Sam Raimi movie.
Yes, it is. He just goes balls to the wall in that movie. And then For Love of the Game with Kevin Costner. It's like a little baseball movie. Yeah. So his range is obviously he can do all these different genres, but man, where he shines is just the wacky nuttiness that I love from his early days. I think Evil Dead 2 is the masterpiece. Like Evil Dead 2 is a masterpiece to me. When I watched that movie, I never been so scared and laughed as ever. Like that movie is simultaneously scary and then it's super funny. It's so weird watching it now. Even now, no movies are like that, where there's tension in scary parts and then it's combined with.
Cross your fingers that the new Doctor Strange will be like that.
I'll get to that, Jay. I'll get to that. So, Evil Dead it has its wacky parts to it, but it's not funny, but he has all these crazy shots where it's uniquely Sam Raimi, where just these crazy zooms, they're coming in and out, everything's off frame all the time. The edits are just quick and fast. And then he adds in this comedic element for Evil Dead 2. And it's the balance of horror and comedy is just unsurpassed, in my opinion. That's the quintessential comedy horror that's ever been made, and it will never be topped. And then he just goes full comedy in Army of Darkness to round out the trilogy. So it's like horror, comedy. That's what he was thinking, I think, when he was going, bringing it up. And then Darkman, I think the story goes where he wanted to make The Shadow. Do you remember The Shadow with Alec Baldwin?
That's a pretty good movie, too.
Yeah, it is. I like it, too. And this is, at the time in Hollywood where they weren't really sure what to do with comic book movies and how to make them. After Superman
and Batman, you had Dick Tracy and
exactly
all that. They had The Shadow, the
Phantom with Billy Zane.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But Darkman, so he couldn't get the rights to The Shadow, so he just creates a comic book character out of thin air, and it's not based on a comic or anything. It's just an original screenplay, and he makes it uniquely Sam Raimi. That movie is fucking crazy, but it's so entertaining and so good. I watched it a couple months ago, and it's just some of the shots in it are just his montages are just weird. There's shots of him like on like a marionette, and then like a spinning head, and then like a cat and a dog, and he just mashes them all together as he's like turning into Darkman and getting all mad, and like you go inside his head, and it's like, what the fuck is this guy doing? And the whole movie is like that, by the way. So yeah, Darkman, and then the Spider-Mans are they're better than the Spider. I like them more than the Spider-Mans that just came out with Tom Holland, because they're not as cookie cutter as I think. I mean, Marvel now, it's very it's factory filmmaking. There's beats and there's not really a unique vision. Spider-Man has a unique vision, and I think Spider-Man 2 is right behind The Dark Knight is my favorite superhero movie ever made. Drag Me to Hell, when he made his return foray into horror. Do
you like Evil Dead 2 more so than Drag Me to Hell?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I love Drag Me to Hell because at that time horror was getting kind of stale, and Drag Me to Hell, I'm like, thank God Sam Raimi's doing another horror movie. I just want him to do horror because he paces them appropriately and he makes them scary and funny. There's a little funny in there. No one does that better than him. He's so good at it. And then he just stopped. He made his way back into horror with Drag Me to Hell, and then he does Oz the Great and Powerful, and it's like, shit. It wasn't very good. And then he just stops. And then now the director Scott Derrickson, who did the original Doctor Strange, got kicked out of directing the new Doctor Strange that's coming out because of creative differences. And then I don't know if they offered Sam Raimi just a boatload of cash, and they were like, all right, will you do this for us? Or if Sam Raimi's intrigued and wanted to bring his own unique vision into it, if he does, Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is going to be awesome.
Yeah, I hope they let him bring in his sensibilities to it. Because, I mean, Marvel movies are typically more funny than they have a lot of humor in them. And to where they said at the beginning that Doctor Strange was the second one was supposed to be more of a horror film, even before Sam Raimi was brought on.
Yeah.
So I think
they did.
I hope they let him, obviously he's going to be handcuffed a little bit. They're not going to let him do whatever, but I'm hoping that the weirdness of it, and they can bring his weirdness.
Yeah.
They let him do that in that movie to where it's funny, but can also be scary. At points.
Yeah. Because, well, they did it with James Gunn. Guardians of the Galaxy is legitimately a James Gunn movie without the crassness rated R version that he's prone to do with movies like Slither and Dawn of the Dead and all that stuff. But
it's super.
Yeah, I mean, so Sam Raimi, he has that. Again, when you see a Sam Raimi movie, it's uniquely Sam Raimi, kind of like Tim Burton or Barry Sonnenfeld. But the reason I don't really gravitate towards Tim Burton or like Barry Sonnenfeld is like they do like goth for just goth's sake, just to make it look weird, but it doesn't really service the story. Sam's crazy, and I wrote here, wacky, unique style, never boring, borderline crazy.
Yeah, he was also, I didn't mention my honorable mentions, but I was flip-flopping between Robert Rodriguez and Sam Raimi.
Okay.
Same reasoning. They're creative filmmaking.
Yeah.
So his use of stop motion, which was more common back in the 80s, for the melting effects and stuff like that in Evil Dead. And I liked his creativeness and this is mainly from the first Evil Dead. And this, I mean, other directors, a lot of directors are creative, especially when they're starting out in their first film. But the opening shot of Evil Dead, when the camera's going over the lake.
Yep.
And that was just done. He was sitting in a boat holding the camera, and I think Bruce Campbell was pushing him, or his brother was pushing him in a boat. That's how they got the shot. There's one of my favorite shots was the tree rape scene. No, it was there's a shot where the camera's going through, I think it's the spirit, but it goes through, the camera breaks the window.
Yeah.
And very simple setup. All it was is they had the camera on a 2x4 or 4x4. They had it zoomed in just enough to where the wood was cropped out, and they just broke the window. I mean, it's that kind of creative filmmaking, because I think they went to the University of Michigan.
Yeah.
Yep. And they shot that film while they were in college. The first Evil Dead. And so I had them flipped, but yeah, Sam Raimi is great.
Anytime he comes out with something, like I was super excited when I heard that he was going to replace Scott Derrickson and do an MCU movie. So I don't want to get my hopes up too high, because I do think they're going to handcuff him a little bit, and it's not going to be scary. It'll just be a little weird, but yeah, I don't know.
And I like him because he can do the feels.
Yeah.
The second Spider-Man movie, when one of my favorite moments in movies is when Mary Jane sees Peter without his mask on for the first time, or whatever. And that whole shot, and she's like glowing in orange and everything else. And that whole movie, just that, how he handled that relationship across all three of those movies, I really enjoyed. Did a very good job, because I believed it.
I did too.
I believe, like, I felt the emotion and I felt the chemistry between them. And maybe that's probably why I'm not a fan of I like the new Spider-Man movies, but that relationship, that chemistry, I don't think it exists between Tom Holland and Zendaya. And I think that probably because that's more Zendaya's character of MJ in that movie, to where she's just sarcastic like she doesn't feel like a real person.
Yes. She feels like someone that they want oh man. He was located. Hey, there you go. Feel good story of the night. Yeah, it feels like a character that this is how teenagers should act.
Yeah, she's
cool.
She's sarcastic and cocky. Yeah, and I don't care. Yeah, that's all I get, is that she doesn't care about anything.
That's right.
And
that relationship with Mary Jane and Peter took at the very end of the movie of Spider-Man 2. She's like, "Go get him, Tiger." Yeah. Like, to get to that moment, it took 2 movies. They developed the relationship for 2 movies, 4 hours.
After the first, when she approaches Toby at the at the funeral,
Yeah.
at the graveyard, and she confesses her love, and it's like, oh, good, it'll end on a happy note, and he
And it
turns her
doesn't.
down, and I'm like, oh no,
Exactly.
and
it sets it up for the relationship for the next movie. Yes, movies don't do that anymore. No.
act like real people. No. But no, Sam Raimi's great.
Yeah, love him.
Unique.
He's crazy.
Nice style. No, there's no one like him either, and no one. I don't think anyone tries to mimic him either, which is good because they would just suck.
They would just suck. Yeah, his style is not really replicable. Not really.
No.
He's just out of his mind.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. Okay, what's your next one?
Next one, I would say. I was going back and forth between this person and Christopher Nolan, and I picked James Cameron over Christopher Nolan because James Cameron can do something that Christopher Nolan can't, which I think is have emotion in his films.
Wow.
Yeah.
This is interesting.
So
you don't think Christopher Nolan has emotion in his films?
It doesn't hit for me.
Wow.
I cried at
fucking statue.
I cried at the end of Terminator 2, and I cried I didn't cry, but I was tearing up at the end of Titanic. And
there was enough room on that door.
There was
so much room, Jay.
That bitch.
What the fuck,
You know what would make
Jay?
Titanic better?
What?
All dudes. Instead of Kate Winslet on the couch being drawn.
That's right.
Billy Zane.
Part
of the ocean. Toxic masculinity. Here I come. But no, so I have him as my favorite spectacle action director. So it was
James Cameron.
Yeah. So it was between him, it was Christopher Nolan, and honestly, Michael Bay was in there. I think I'm not a fan of his Transformer movies. The first one was fine. Then he just kept making them. And I was like, dude, do something else.
He doesn't stop.
And people give him flack for like how his movies get dated or are they racist or what. I don't know. All I know is Bad Boys 2, that movie, that was fucking awesome. I love that movie. Like just the way he directs action, that bridge chase scene with the boat and everything else.
He directs action very well.
Yeah,
he does.
And I think he's one of the best action directors.
His characters are so shallow.
And again, why I didn't pick him, because James Cameron can direct actors to be real characters.
Yes, real people.
Yeah. So and that's why I picked James Cameron. So he's my favorite spectacle. Christopher Nolan, Michael Bay, great at action, great at spectacle.
He is.
James Cameron, I like it better. He doesn't have as many films as these guys do, but everything he makes is going to be special. I'm not a fan of Avatar. I'm not looking forward to another Avatar movie coming out. I'm looking forward to another James Cameron movie.
Oh, there's going to be 5 coming out, Jay.
Yeah.
Avatar 5. That's all he's doing until he's dead.
I hope they don't turn into the Transformer movies, but I think they're going to be special regardless. I think there's something that he hasn't told anybody. There's probably I'm wondering what the thing is going to be.
I am too.
And maybe it's just the world that because he's been working on the script for a while. And I mean, maybe, I don't know if he's going to bring the 3D thing back.
Well, his last 2 movies have been events. Like you have to go to the movie theater and see his movie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who didn't see Titanic? And I think I saw it twice.
Yeah.
I mean, it was epic.
Mm-hmm.
And then Avatar is the best 3D experience I've ever had. It's Dances with Wolves in space.
Yeah.
But visually, holy shit.
I had the
crazy.
I'm not a fan of heights. I had the palm sweats.
Yeah.
And I had that uneasiness in my, that tingle in your butt.
Yeah.
When you're like, oh,
vertigo. You got a little vertigo going on. Yeah.
And so very well done. I mean, and I don't think he's had a bad movie. I put in parentheses Piranha 2. I haven't seen it.
Give him a break.
Yeah.
He's trying to pay the bills.
But he hasn't made a bad movie.
No. I like The Abyss.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good I like movies where you discover it's like a mystery, but you're learning along with the characters.
Mhm.
What's like he's great at that.
Yeah.
And Abyss is good at that.
Yeah. And his movies do not age.
No.
They're all, I mean, more or less timeless. Now, I haven't seen Avatar in a while. I don't know how the effects hold up because that was more or less a cartoon. But I mean, I look, thinking back on the acting and the action scenes, the way he paces action, it doesn't feel dated. It doesn't. I mean, Aliens still really strong, and that movie is over 30 years old. And then you have Terminator 2, which is one of the best action movies.
Might be the best action movie ever made.
Yeah,
could be.
And that was made in 91.
I know.
And a movie, the only conversation I've heard people say that of a movie that has surpassed it is the Raid movies.
Oh, in terms of just action pacing and
just as far as being a good action movie.
Okay.
Some people have said like the Raid 2 is a better action movie than
the first one.
Well, the first one, but also then
Terminator 2.
Terminator 2, which I disagree because I think there's kung fu fighting action, and then there's action.
Yes.
Just like spectacle action. And I think there's fight scenes in movies that I enjoy and I think are cool. I mean, Terminator doesn't have fight scenes. They have machines hitting each other back and forth. But as far as action movie, I think it's probably one of the best action movies ever made.
Yes, I agree.
I don't see
True Lies is amazing.
Yeah. That's probably his most popcorny, like mediocre movie, I think.
Yeah, but it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun.
It's still a good movie. It's Was it Bill Paxton?
It's Bill Paxton. Yeah.
Yeah. What was the line? He's like, "Oh, and a pair of titties make you want to jump up and beg for buttermilk."
That's
Come on, man, don't kill me. I got a tiny dick. It's pathetic.
It's pathetic.
James Cameron, I think, loved him dearly. He gave him all the best lines.
He did.
And what was it? Aliens. I said we go up to orbit and nuke them. Oh, fucking A, man.
We're history. Game over,
Game
man.
over, man. But yeah, so he's my spectacle action director because it's
a solid pick.
Yeah, I mean,
he was on the edge. I almost put him in there. I just didn't think he made enough movies.
Mm-hmm.
That was it.
Yeah,
but he was there.
Nope.
I'll go see Avatar 2. Bet your ass.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna go see
Everyone's gonna see that fucking movie. I mean, it's gonna be incredibly.
And I'm
box office.
Draw.
It's gonna make a shit ton of movie or shit ton of money.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to see what blows me away by it.
You're right. Everything he does lately it's like an event. It's a spectacle.
Mm-hmm.
You want to see what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to be either. What could it be? What, like he found another way to film underwater? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Who knows?
That or he just comes out and says, "Okay, yep, it's being released. However, it's being released in 10 theaters that I've retrofitted with all this stuff." And It's like some weird 4D thing. I mean, I wouldn't put it past him to do, because he said, he's like, "Oh, I've been waiting on the technology to get there." Waiting on the technology and doing the script.
Because he
developed the 3D technology for Avatar.
He said that he wasn't going to even attempt to do that until he saw the Two Towers and Gollum. And then he knew, okay, it's there now. It's possible. The foundation is there. I can start working on Avatar now. Yeah.
So, James Cameron.
I like it. He must be on my list too, Jay. It's a good pick. Quentin Tarantino.
Okay.
I had to put him on there.
Yeah. He
hasn't put out a movie that I disliked yet. I love all of his movies. Because you say it's the reason why you don't like his is because it's just people talking.
It's not. I mean, because I like his movies. I like Pulp Fiction. I like Reservoir Dogs. I like Kill Bill. Those Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Django Unchained was entertaining. But I bring up the talking because I feel like it's an example of his go-to, which is fine. I think it's more of, I don't think he knows how to trim what is needed and what is not needed.
Okay, so
I think some of it
editing thing.
Yeah, and because I think he's a great writer. True Romance, fantastic, especially in the hands of Tony Scott. You have yourself a really solid movie,
right?
And then you have From Dusk Till Dawn, which director. I mean, so Tarantino can write all he wants. I think there just needs to be someone there to be like, okay, we don't need this, we don't need that, and that's mainly because I remember looking at his deleted scene commentary of Pulp Fiction, and he was very. Yeah, I had more stuff here, but I trimmed it out because we wanted to get to the boxing match. We wanted to get to it was after Bruce Willis's character Butch jumped out and was taken in the cab, and he's like, "Oh, okay. So yeah, we had more dialogue here, but nope. We wanted to get to Mia's date, and so I had to cut some dialogue and do." I feel like he doesn't do that anymore.
Okay,
I feel he's just slowly turned into, he can do whatever he wants now. So he's like, oh, I'm just going to let it, which is fine. I think sometimes it works and sometimes I enjoy it. Like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Take as much time as you want. And then there's other movies that I'm just not a fan of, to where like The Hateful Eight. And I'm just like, oh.
I love The Hateful Eight.
Yeah. But anyways.
It's funny that you think Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is probably your favorite Tarantino movie.
I think it's No. My favorite Tarantino movie is Kill Bill.
All right, so it's your second favorite one.
Yeah, I mean, I'd put it. Pulp Fiction's good. Pulp Fiction, I feel like, has the timing and the humor. I think Pulp Fiction is his funniest movie. And I tend to gravitate more towards comedies. But I've seen it so many damn times.
Yeah. Well, the reason I say that is because I think Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is his least talky movie to date. It's them driving around LA for 20 straight minutes, listening to. Yeah. So I enjoy Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It's well made, but it's my least favorite Tarantino movie by far. Mm-hmm. His strength is dialogue. I don't want a Tarantino movie where we go 20 minutes of driving around in a car and listen to 70s or 60s radio, and you're just.
You want to hear the character speaking.
Yes, that's your forte, and that's why I love him so much. There's no movie director, and he's writer/director, but it's not just the screenwriting. The way he directs the scene itself is strictly Tarantino.
And I like that. I like the shots that he uses. I mean, he brought up the trunk shot, like his most famous shot was the view from the trunk, which is, I think, is in all of his movies. But
nonlinear storytelling, that's because of Tarantino. Everybody after Pulp Fiction tried to copy with the nonlinear storytelling. Everybody did. And I wish he comes out with a movie where it's just linear storytelling. Because every movie has like an element. I think Once Upon a Time in Hollywood maybe is the only one I can lately where it's pretty much linear throughout the movie.
I want to say Django Unchained was pretty linear.
Yeah, you're right.
I mean, it had some flashbacks showing.
No, you're right. It was
pretty linear.
It's pretty linear. Okay.
And I don't remember Inglourious Bastards that well.
They would do like chapter. They would flip here and there. It would add context, but just no one directs and writes dialogue like Tarantino. Like you said, that's the strength to me. Where I don't mind listening to five guys around a table talking about whatever like Reservoir Dogs has the Like a Virgin discussion for 10 minutes and tipping waitresses, like, or they're in the warehouse and they're just talking about. The bank heist that just went wrong, and it's literally four guys in a warehouse talking, and the way he goes in and out of the bathroom and then back, and then Mr. White's perspective, like I love it. It's strictly Tarantino. Every time he comes out with something, we talked about Star Trek a couple of episodes ago. I know exactly what it'd be like. It'd be Captain Kirk and Spock on the deck of the Enterprise talking
about a situation that we will never see.
You know what? I'm there. I am there with fucking roses, baby. Loving every minute of it.
Yeah, and I mean, I think he's definitely, I think, one of the most important filmmakers in the past 30 years. I'm not saying that at all. I enjoyed Jackie Brown. I mean, I enjoy his movies. I think he needs to be trimmed a little bit.
Yeah. But Kill Bill, the different styles that he incorporated in with directing, not just dialogue, like the kung fu is amazing. That sequence in the first volume where it's just animation.
Yep.
I mean, it's great. It flows naturally.
I liked him better when I was younger because I was under the impression he was trying to do different things every single time. So, meaning he did Pulp Fiction. That was his gangster movie. And then he did Jackie Brown, which was kind of like his cop movie. And then he did his Kill Bill, which was his kung fu movie. And then he did his war movie, Inglourious Bastard. So I always thought he was just doing his different genres. Then he did his Western of Django. His Southern is what. Shut up.
What did he call it?
He called it a Southern. He's like, well, it's a Southern. And I'm like, shut the fuck up.
What does that even mean?
It means it takes place in the South, not the West. So, and then he made his Western with the Hateful Eight or whatever. So he is kind of hopping. And then he made his period piece kind of, or Ode to Hollywood or whatever, which I don't even know what kind of genre I'd put that in. But
that's a historical drama, Jay.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
So historical fiction.
Yes.
So I liked it younger when I thought he was trying to do different genres, two different styles, to where, I mean, it is very similar. I have a director on here that does a lot of very similar things too. So I get it. And I do enjoy his dialogue. I think some of it goes on for too long. Death Proof is the one I feel like great car chase. But the one I feel like it does go on for way too long. I feel like they should have just kept with one group of girls and followed them the whole movie. That's just my own personal preference, but or opinion.
I love that sweet dialogue, Jay. I love it. It's so good.
And I think it works. I thought he was going to, I think his best thing that he did dialogue wise was an Inglourious Bastards.
Opening scene.
And then the cafe scene. Cafe scene, I think, was slightly better. I felt more tension in that than I did in the opening scene. Because I thought he was going to find her out, like in that. And that I thought he was just toying with her or something. But I remember seeing that. I was like, wow, he made tension just out of two people talking back and forth. I was like, that's it. That he reached the peak. And I remember seeing that in the theater. And I was like, maybe that's what he was working towards.
Yeah.
Obviously not. I mean, he just likes his dialogue. And
he does.
That's his style. And I like his choice of shots. I like his narrative, how he plays with his storytelling. I like him better as a writer, though.
Not as a director?
I still enjoy his directing, but I think he's a stronger writer than he's a director.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's inarguable. But the way Inglourious Bastards, the way he directs and rises the tension, and especially in that opening scene, I think is masterful. And then the scene in the bar where they're trying to meet up with, what's her name? Diana Kruger's character. They're trying to rendezvous to kind of plan out what's going to happen next. That whole scene, the pace, the people playing the drinking game behind them, the guy playing the piano who ends up joining them in the card game, like that whole thing is paced out, and it always ends up. It starts slowly, it builds, and then it's violence. Like bam, that's the way violence is. It's sudden and it's abrupt, and he does that perfectly. I think, especially in Inglourious Bastards.
I agree.
Yeah,
he does. He handles violence very, very well.
Yeah. It's sudden, it's horrifying, which is what it's supposed to be. All right, well, yeah, it's Quentin Tarantino.
Nice.
That's number 2.
Good pick. My third one, I will talk about Edgar Wright.
Okay.
So, and I put down, he's probably my favorite writer director.
Okay.
One of my favorite writer directors, but I picked him again because of his comedies, but he has his sense of humor. I like British comedy.
You do like you some British comedy, don't
the
you?
dryness of it and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But with Edgar Wright stuff, and I'm more, he uses everything at his disposal, and he's one that does it more so, I feel like, than other people. So what I mean by that, so for example, Shaun of the Dead, he uses editing. I mean, everyone does this, but he uses the performance of the actors, the music, the beat of the music.
I'm thinking of that one scene.
Don't
Queen. Stop me.
Yeah,
no.
yeah. They're like hitting with the hitting with the beat.
Yeah,
and
having a good time. That's good.
And he like the editing, sound effects, everything he uses to help build up that humor and like hit the joke. For the sound effects, I have Hot Fuzz when they go and the house just blew up. And the two Cartwright and Wainwright, I think, are the two detectives or whatever. And there's a shot, and they're like, they say something along the lines, "Yeah, we'll just keep an eye on you." And it's like that, the dramatic beat or whatever is like, like one leaves, and then he pops back on. It's like, and again, and it's simple things like that, to where he uses the sound effects, the music, the blocking, and to tell the story and the humor, along with the music, the editing. It's just like he has a style. It's very, I have written down, contradictory comedy, to where he takes those dramatic tones and the dramatic editing and like it's used to display humor,
right?
And especially with the Cornetto trilogy, they're parody films, but they're very good films in that genre.
They are. Hot Fuzz, I think, is
Hot Fuzz,
very good action movie.
Yeah, great action movie. Shaun of the Dead, I think, is probably the best and most realistic zombie movie ever made, because that's how probably a lot of people would
that's true.
would act.
Let's go to the bar.
Yeah, the rewatchability is one of the highest, because I've seen those movies so many times, and every time I see it, I find something new that I had never noticed. And that's why I put him as my writer director, because he had to have known that he's writing his movies knowing how he's going to direct them.
Yeah.
And so he stuffs it with, there is no fluff. Everything is there. The slightest, in his movies, he always tells out the story of what's going to happen in a nonchalant way. It's presented in a throwaway line or something, to where you don't even pick up on it, but he just gave away the whole movie, and you're so engrossed with everything else you don't even notice.
You don't even notice it.
And
yeah, it's a good point. I didn't like The World's End. I remember not that much. So, but to his credit, it's because Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz were just awesome. It's a high bar to clear.
Yeah, it's my least favorite of the three too. It's also the least I've watched of the three.
Okay.
I remember the first time I saw Hot Fuzz, I wasn't a fan of it.
Really?
Yeah.
You didn't like Hot Fuzz the first time you saw it?
First time I saw it.
That's surprising.
I was like, because I thought it was going to be more action in there.
Oh, okay.
Watched it the second time. I was like, that's pretty funny. And the third time and the fourth time. I think I like Hot Fuzz a little bit more than Shaun of the Dead.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, they flip flop back, and it depends whatever one I saw the most recently.
Okay.
Because they're both so good. But at World's End, or the World's End, is the one I've
Parts of the Caribbean.
Yeah. What? Dark of the Moon.
Yeah.
It's the one I've seen least. Baby Driver.
I've never seen that. I can't watch it because Kevin Spacey's in it, folks.
Oh shit. Damn it. All right. Well, I'll throw that movie away. But that movie, he did a lot of the music, like he did the cuts, and the gunshots were in tune and with the beat of the music and stuff.
Really?
Like that. Yeah. It feels like a very long music video.
Huh.
And it's good. I mean, it's an action caper.
Okay.
Car chase caper. Car chase scenes are great. He has a good eye for action. And he has a unique way to I'm sure he choreographed the car chase scenes and stuff like that. But I think he really excels at comedy. I haven't seen his new one.
Last Night in Soho.
Yeah, Last Night in Soho.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that.
Me and Nicole saw it.
Okay, how was it?
Good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What is it?
It's totally Edgar Wright. Like the synopsis.
Well, like what kind of movie is it?
Oh, it's a horror movie.
Okay.
Horror / suspense.
All right.
It's up your alley.
Okay.
You'd like it.
I'll check it out. But I mean, the Cornetto trilogy and then Spaced. I don't know if you ever saw Spaced. It was a TV show him, Simon Pegg, and Nick Frost were in.
I've heard of it.
It's you see a lot of like it's in that comedy phase. It's that nerd comedy that he kind of did with Shaun of the Dead and Hot Fuzz.
Okay. What about Scott Pilgrim versus Is It the World?
Yeah, I saw that once.
I've only seen it once.
I thought it was, I mean, I think I was.
It was like a video game.
Yeah, it was a little bit like a video game. I know it was based off the comic book. I never read the comic book. I think I might have been just too old to watch that because there's a lot of people I feel like that are younger than us that love that movie.
Love it.
And
it's like that generation's The Wizard.
Maybe, yeah. To where they were just at the right age the first time they saw it. And but I mean, I remember the humor being there. I was entertained by it, but it wasn't something that I felt like I wanted to watch or had to watch again. I mean, maybe his other movies grow on me. I probably need to do that one, watch that one again, see if it grows on me as well.
He does have a unique style, though. Mm-hmm. You know, you're watching an Edgar Wright movie.
Yeah, and I think him writing, as long as he's writing it, then
he's in his zone.
Yeah. And because you have the control, if he knows how, if he's writing it, then he knows how he's going to make it.
Because there's some directors that just cannot direct other people's material.
Yeah.
Trying to think of an example. I'm going to pinch myself. We were just talking about this. Like, you know why this movie sucks? Because he didn't write it. Anyway, we'll think about it.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, so Edgar Wright.
Nice.
Yeah.
Zack Snyder.
Oh.
You always tell me. You know why that movie sucked?
Yeah, he didn't write it.
Because he wrote it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, his better. Yeah, because Dawn of the Dead.
James Gunn.
Yep. And
300. He didn't write that. Watchmen. He didn't write that.
Yeah.
He wrote Sucker Punch.
Yeah, he did.
He wrote Army of the Dead.
I didn't see Sucker Punch because it was a cast full of women.
It was full of those.
You know what would make Sucker Punch
chromosomes.
Better?
What's that? Bunch of dudes. just sweating all over each other.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
Drinking beer.
Instead of Sucker Punch, it'd be Nut Punch.
Nut Punch.
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
Sounds like a drink.
It does. Fucking.
Grab some Nut Punch. Quench your thirst.
All right. Yeah, that's a good pick. All right. My next one's Christopher Nolan.
Yes.
I hasn't made a bad movie yet.
Have you seen the
He
following?
made a movie about magicians. Interesting. Couldn't believe it. I remember watching Memento and immediately watching it right over again because it blew my mind so much. And then my masterpiece. Oh yeah, I forgot to say, the masterpiece for Quentin Tarantino is obviously Pulp Fiction. It's a masterpiece.
Oh, my masterpiece, or the one I think you should probably Hot Fuzz or Shaun of the Dead. I think either one,
solid.
Either one, you're gonna have a good time.
I love Shaun of the Dead. It's good. Christopher Nolan. I mean, it's Inception to me. It's a master. There's not a beat of that movie that's out of place. It's perfect. I love it. No one does scale like Christopher Nolan. He is
currently
unique.
Yeah.
Strictly unique. ever since Wally Pfister was his cinematographer that he works with, Christopher Nolan does. There's something about it. The lighting, there's no, like J.J. Abrams has a lens flare, so there's something that's fuzzy or it's out of focus. His movies look clean. Like there's not a light beam that shouldn't be there. That's a Christopher Nolan movie. Every frame is where it needs to be. The scene, the camera movement has a purpose. There's nothing. He's thought it all the way through. And only Christopher Nolan can do that. He's just, and anything he comes out with, like he's doing an Oppenheimer movie with who's it? Cillian Murphy. I can't wait to see that. It's going to be epic. And I disagree with you on the emotion. So Interstellar is close to a masterpiece. It really is. That the scene where he's looking at the because he went on that planet and he, you know, decades went by and he goes up to the video and, you know, his son gets older. He sees the grand and then
he starts crying.
And then the daughter comes and says, you told me that once that, you know, you would be here when I was your age and here we are. And he's just breaking down. And then the scene where he goes through the time hole or the black hole and comes out of it and his daughter's dying and, you know, in front of him right there. You know, my dad said that he would come to see me or whatever, and it just gets you. Come on, man. I cried for sure. That scene is emotional, man. Because it takes 2.5 hours to build up to that moment, and he takes his time doing it.
Yeah, just didn't land for me.
Oh my God.
I love him as a director. I think, yeah, he's the best. He's the one that has, like you said, the largest scale.
Yeah.
The most spectacle.
And he doesn't rely on special, like, digital effects.
He does a lot of in-camera stuff. He figures out how to do it practically.
Anywhere he can find, like, he has the opposite problem of Death on the Nile. If he made Death on the Nile, you're going to Egypt, you're filming at the pyramids, everything is going to be practical. There's going to be a real boat. It's going to be real water. It's going to be real camels. Like, that's going to be Christopher Nolan's Death on the Nile. And it would be 10 times better than that shit that they put out last year.
And I like him because he does that to where, I mean, and just like with James Cameron, but I would say if there's one person, none of my other directors on the list, like if they come out with a new movie, I'm like, all right, I'll check it. But Christopher Nolan's like, okay,
yes,
that you need to go see because it's, again, one of the most influential, I think, directors in the past 30 years.
Easily.
There will be, I mean, it'll be him, Quentin Tarantino, and
I mean, Nolan hasn't made a bad movie. He hasn't made one bad movie.
I haven't seen The Following, but that's his first one.
Yeah. I mean, it's okay. I mean, it's my least favorite of his, but it's still it's watchable and it's pretty good. Especially it's made for no money.
Yeah. I think did Insomniac come before or after Memento? After Memento. See, that doesn't feel like a Christopher Nolan movie.
Insomnia doesn't.
It feels like a studio
it does
movie that he had to
do.
I feel like there's Memento and then he started with the Batmans. And that's his filmography.
Well, The Prestige is highly underrated. The way that movie is paced.
That was after Batman Begins,
After
right?
Batman Begins.
Yeah. Yep.
Just, again, it's a movie about dueling magicians, and he made it interesting.
Yeah.
How? I remember I'm like, I don't know, I want to watch Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale. Magicians, really? Is that what we're doing here? It's awesome. It's a mystery. The atmosphere in it's amazing. I mean, it's just great.
Yeah.
Perfect. I mean, Memento, holy shit. The first time I saw that, I was like, what? It's kind of like Pulp Fiction in the nonlinear storytelling, but you just tell it backwards.
Yeah. And with Memento, I think I saw that one first. And I was like, oh, it told it backwards. And I was in college at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the guys I had to take Spanish. And one of the guys in my
Espanol.
One of the guys in my Spanish class, he was a huge movie guy.
Yeah.
And he had like a whole printout of like movies that he had very nice library. But I told him, I was like, oh, I just saw Memento. And he's like, oh, have you seen Irreversible? which is a French film.
Yes.
I think it's with
isn't the rape scene notorious in it?
Yeah, it's like Monica Bellucci and the guy who plays the fox in Ocean's 12.
I know who you're talking about.
Looks like a European version of Willard, Fred Willard, not Fred Willard.
He just looks French.
Yeah. Anyways, same thing. The story is told backwards.
Okay.
And I saw that, and that had more of an impact. But I saw them like very close to each other. If there was an American version, yeah, it was
Memento
with Joey Pants and Guy Pearce.
Joey Pants.
And but yeah, but Irreversible had more of an impact because it hits a lot harder and it's a lot more brutal than what Memento is. But no, I mean, I agree. I don't think he's made a bad movie. You said Inception was probably his best one?
Yes. I love the way that I'm trying to describe this in the best way I can. Has a movie ever, like, the movie's about, implanting an idea, making it seem like you're in like a dream, and then the idea is your idea.
Mm-hmm.
It's the idea of Inception. You came up with the idea. Like when you watch that movie, and then when it ends, you feel like someone is messing with your head. Like, is he still in the dream? Is he out of the dream? Has he been in this dream this whole time? And then, like, as you rewatch it, you're like, oh, maybe that's where he's still asleep, or maybe that's where he's still, it just messes with your head so much to where you feel like you're in a dream watching the movie. And I love the way it ends. It's perfect. It's like, oh, he's with his kids now. And then it kind of just, is it going to fall? And it cuts to black.
Yeah.
And the score, dude. Come on. Come on. I saw it in IMAX, and then it's like, this movie is crazy.
Yeah. I think it might be I could see it being his best movie. I have to watch Dunkirk again. My favorite one that he did was Interstellar, obviously, but no, it's technically his better movie. I would say either that or Dark Knight.
Yeah. Interstellar is.
I mean, Dark Knight's pretty good, but Inception, I like the idea better.
I do too.
It's just a good, unique.
It is.
I think I'd have.
I like Inception better than The Dark Knight. But I mean, come on, we're comparing The Dark Knight, and this guy directed The Dark Knight and Inception and Interstellar. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jeez.
I'm glad he's still youngish.
I know. He's still got tons of movies left in him.
Time. What is it? 20 years? How old is he? He's probably what, 50?
Probably around there. Yeah.
He's got.
I hope he doesn't do like a Kubrick and it takes him 9 years, or Cameron
ends up with Eyes Wide Shut or some
bullshit.
Bullshit.
Some stupid. But no, I can't. Oppenheimer. I mean, talking about doing a biopic. I think it's a biopic.
Yeah, it's about the birth of the
atomic bomb. Yeah.
I heard he's actually going to set one off and film it.
That's what he would do.
He's doing practical.
It's like, no, we're going to Nevada and we're setting off a bomb.
Be Wally Feaster's last film.
That's right.
He's got
radiation poisoning him.
Or just stand there.
His organs are going to melt.
Let off the fucking bomb. Better get this shot.
You better get this shot, you bastard. You prick. Just take it. Yeah. So, yeah, Christopher Nolan.
And Inception is the masterpiece that
yes.
people,
yeah.
I think I agree. All right.
What's the next one, Jay?
Next one is Wes Anderson.
You know what? I was talking to Nicole, and she said, you know what he's going to pick? He's going to pick that stupid, weird director, with all the dumb stuff in it. I'm like, no, he won't. She's like, oh, yeah, he's going to pick that. I'm like, all right, well, maybe he will.
Yep, I picked him. And
it happens.
I have him in Edgar Wright is an auteur. in a sense. But I think Wes Anderson, I have him as my favorite auteur director.
Okay.
And
he is an auteur in every
yeah
sense and or definition of the word.
And I think people that I've talked to either love him or hate him. I love him. The more Wes Anderson he gets, the more I love it.
Just can't get enough of it, can you, Jay?
Yeah, I can't. And I think I like him because they're comfort movies.
Okay.
They're relaxing, and they're the exact opposite of a Wes Anderson movie for me would be a Safdie Brothers, like Uncut Gems. That entire time cocaine. I was just like,
yeah, I can't breathe.
Yeah, I was having a panic attack. Yeah. But I have...
That's a good comparison to the opposite.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I like his use of consistent use of the same similar actors, plus the consistent style of acting he gets from those actors. Because it's like, oh, I have my acting, and oh, I'm acting in a Wes Anderson movie. I'm going to act this way. Kind of the very deliberate. Everything is so deliberate. And I like his use of color palettes and set designs, to where he has you got your pastels for Grand Budapest. You have your autumn colors for Fantastic Mr. Fox.
Right.
He finds a color palette and he creates that. I feel like his movies, it's art that he's creating in all aspects.
Yeah. That's fair.
The set, the way the sets are constructed, everything's like a playhouse. And I like that. I like that design. I like that aesthetic. I know a lot of people don't. A lot of people are like, oh, well, he's just going off the deep end. But I'm like, yeah, but I mean, if you like the style, then you like the style. So
right,
kind of.
Well, they're used to Michael Bay, Jay, and those slow-mo shots that there's a digital whatever the fuck out there.
Yeah,
and it's frantic editing and pacing. Wes Anderson's movies it's literally like, it feels like the camera is just set in place.
Mm-hmm.
It's perfectly framed. There's right degree angles everywhere. And you're right. It's like you're viewing a play.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The shot composition, the object placement, the cadence of people speaking, camera movements. I mean, everything is so particular, and it's like a painting. I don't know. So he was part of the two that I knew was going to be on my list.
Right.
And
damn it, Nicole.
She knows me too well.
She knows me.
And his sense of music, he does nice offbeat music, but also pop music. So he'll throw in Beach Boys, he'll throw in David Bowie, but he'll also have weird shit that Wes Anderson is into. Like, oh, well, I'm going to have this Bolivian singer sing David Bowie in Portuguese or something, like, or some Portuguese singer singing like Sio, whatever. I don't know. But his music, I love it. They feel so comforting. And I have it written down. He has a great ability to present an absurd situation in a very non-absurd way, but can take that understated absurdity and make you laugh or cry.
Yeah.
And because like he takes this huge thing, boils it down to something very simple, and he can make you, feel sadness or laugh. Like, his sense of humor is so dry. I feel like he's just kind of like lingers on the
it's so dry you could start a brush fire.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of a way to call it, but like, it's just so, he doesn't pay attention to it. It's like, here's something funny. If you laugh at it, great. If not, we're moving on.
Exactly.
And
it's very paced. There's like next thing. Yep.
There's a thing when was it Grand Budapest? They are trying to steal the painting that they get off the wall, and they're like, oh, they take the painting off the wall, and there's like a faded mark or something, like, oh, we got to put something up there. quick, put that painting up there. And they put it up there. And it's like two girls like finger fucking each other. And it's like something so weird and off. It's like, what the fuck? But they don't call attention to it. They just hang it up and then run.
And just run out.
And oh God, there's that. There's the other scene I like in Grand Budapest is when Gustav, Ray Fiennes' character at the end, when they get stopped by the Germans in the train again, and he stands up for Zero. Understated, it's not presented really any differently than the last time he stood up for Zero when the Germans stopped, but it was the end of, I think, his life or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's when he was captured or whatever, but it had like just a tinge of sadness to it.
Right. Yeah.
But that's what I like about it, is like he just this ridiculous thing, but everyone's just playing it straight and cool and not a big deal. Like the world could be on fire. And like, okay, well, let's solve this problem. And
we'll solve it with antique tuba parts.
Yes. But
so one of my favorite memories at the movies, we went to go see The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou,
mm-hmm.
and I recommended it, and I saw it with I think 4 or 5 people, and we get there, and the whole movie I'm laughing.
Mm-hmm.
None of my friends are, and they're trying to find this. I think it's a shark. I haven't seen it in a while, and they're they get to the movie, they find the shark, and it's like this claymation
mm-hmm.
like thing that it's totally fake. I'm laughing because my friends are waiting for like some spectacle, like some digital awesome thing that, and I'm the whole time I'm like, and they're all mad, and I'm just laughing because I know that they're mad because it's not like a transformer
mm-hmm.
or something. And then I think that's partly the joke. it's absurd. Yeah. It's a claymation shark.
It's something so, and I think he does integrate a lot of stop motion animation, like a lot of, obviously it's fake, kind of a thing. And I don't know if he does that it's too fantastic to actually capture this kind of a thing, so he resorts to that, or if it's just, I wanted to fit that style, because he had some of the other, like he had the crabs, like a lot of the sea life that they had was stop motion. So I don't know if he just was trying to keep with that theme. It's funny you laugh. That's probably one of the most emotional beats of any of his films for that movie. Because I just love it. Everyone's sitting there, and he says that line of, "Oh, that's the shark that killed my friend. I wonder if he remembers me."
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And that's what the whole movie was based. He wanted to go kill the shark that ate his best friend.
Yep.
And but yeah, I mean, themes aside, I think that's where I liked. That's his earliest movie that I like. Royal Tenenbaums, it's there. I feel like it's 60% Wes Anderson.
He hasn't found his footing quite yet.
Yeah. And I feel like Life Aquatic was, that's it. And then he went forward, and everything after that I could watch forever. Bottle Rocket. Rushmore's good. I feel like that's just looked at as a coming of age movie. I think it's a great coming of age movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a Wes Anderson-y movie. There's some elements you can kind of see, but it's like there's like 30% Wes Anderson there.
Yep.
But when he was able to really start doing what he wanted to do, or having complete control over what he wanted to have control over, is when I enjoy it the most.
Right. Yeah, you do.
But yeah, I like it. I would say, as far as what I think his masterpiece is, I would say Grand Budapest Hotel is probably his most well-liked movie. It was nominated for Best Picture in 2015, but personally, I think I like Life Aquatic the best.
Yeah.
But Grand Budapest is still,
that's up there.
Grand Budapest is pretty
Have you seen The French Dispatch yet?
Yes.
I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, I've only seen it once. I'll need to see it another time. But I enjoyed the first two stories, it's kind of presented as
like an anthology.
Yeah, a little bit. It's like a magazine story. So it takes place at a magazine.
Okay.
And it's the French Dispatch of this Kansas Evening, whatever the hell, some long ass title, with tuba parts.
And that's the point, right?
Yeah. And but each story is presented as like a different feature in the magazine.
Okay.
And the first two sections I really liked. Third one I thought was like, wasn't as good as the other ones, but I enjoyed it. The acting. I mean, it's Wes Anderson.
That's right.
Everyone's
stoic. Everyone's delivering their lines how they should be delivered.
Yep. Ridiculous things happening all around, and no one batting an eye.
No one even cares.
God, I love it. He could film shit on the floor, and it'd be
fermenting cheese, Jay. Yeah, and I'd go out and see it.
It'd be good looking shit on the floor.
That's a good pick, though. That's definitely an acquired taste, though.
It is,
which is why I like that.
And for me, I think I've seen it so many times. It's comfort stuff. Like it's
like putting on a warm blanket for you. Just love it. It's like coming home.
Yep.
Jay, I'm gonna come home. I'm gonna put on some Wes Anderson, brew some coffee. Oh, yeah, it's nothing better. All right, that's a good pick. David Fincher. I don't think anyone does atmosphere and tone better than David Fincher. Oh man, I think Seven alone is obviously that's his masterpiece to me.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's one of those movies where it's a simple story on paper. It's like, okay, two cops and they're going after a killer, and what's his niche? Oh, it's 7 Deadly Sins. All right, great. Dime a dozen story or whatever. But it's so well paced and creepy, and they build the characters. I like the fact that it only spans like 6 days, 7 days, obviously. Mm-hmm. 7 days, and you just follow these characters each day, and it ends abruptly, so tragically, and it builds to that. Just it builds to it so. I didn't see it coming. I don't think anyone else saw it coming, but it didn't feel forced. It felt like, yep, that's what that guy would do. And they built it up from start to finish. This guy's out of his mind and he's crazy. The kills in it were so jarring and interesting, but it didn't take away from the story itself. I mean, the atmosphere in that movie is just crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I love how they structured the so when they introduce, Morgan Freeman and Brad Pitt's like the new guy coming on, to solve the case, and Morgan Freeman's on his way out, doesn't even want to do it. The way that relationship is they're both so good in it, and then how they set up the relationship with Gwyneth Paltrow to where you get that emotional feeling at the end when you do realize that her head's in the box.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just so good, and it's very David Fincher in the atmosphere and the tone. He's very consistent with his tone and the atmosphere in all of his movies. It's never like, this is what this movie is.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing else. It's not like Sam Raimi where, okay, there's a horror and it's a comedy. With David Fincher, it's strictly, this movie is going to be brooding. It's going to be dark, and you're going to love it. I mean, from Seven to The Game to Fight Club, Panic Room. The only movie that kind of goes out of it is The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. But everything else he's made, Jay, it's like, it's very it's like one note in terms of genre. Like The Social Network, it's a drama. It's not a thriller or anything, but it's one note. The same thing with Gone Girl.
Mm-hmm.
It's one note. There's no comedy. There's no. It's all suspense. There's not really any drama. It's not trying to make you cry. It's just this is what this movie is, and this is how we're gonna ride all the way through. There's no other element to it, but he executes it so well.
He does. he also uses special effects brilliantly to where you don't even notice it. And I'm
Are you
thinking,
talking about Ben Affleck's penis in Gone Girl?
no, I'm talking about Brad Pitt's penis and Benjamin Button.
Yeah.
It's not the only thing that ages backwards.
Yeah.
But no, like Zodiac. Well, Zodiac's my favorite David Fincher movie. But there's a lot of scenes in there using green screen you would have no idea was a green screen. He uses it so effectively. He doesn't use it as a crutch. He uses it to supplement the story to where, yeah, we're not in the 70s anymore. I need to redo Fisherman's Wharf the way it looked in the 70s. But he does it in such a subtle way. It's not obvious. Like, it's a very good digital that he does. And I think, and he has I don't know what gave him that firm grasp, because Benjamin Button was pretty, I mean, that won an Oscar for special effects. And he used it probably with some of the establishing shots, but he doesn't use it as like as huge as Michael Bay, or he doesn't put in like obvious blood splatters everywhere that I need it to look this way. The only way I can do that is digitally, or I need to add that little thing, but everything else is going to, because what is it? There's a scene Mark Ruffalo and Anthony Edwards, Goose, come in and they are looking at the cab where a cab driver got shot in Zodiac, and they're walking in the street, they're talking to the cops and everything else. That's shot on location in a real street in San Francisco. But there's a green screen there because he needed to do the replacement of the streets because there was too many modern buildings in the background. So he's shooting on location, but he's like, okay, I need this little bit gone. Put that in there. I appreciate people who use special effects that way, because to the extent you have no idea they're even there. And
Right.
that's, I think, the only way that you should be using them, is that everything should be believable on screen.
Maybe he went that way because his experience with Alien 3 and using special effects for special effects sake, he just had a terrible experience with it. And he's like, all right, well, not doing that anymore.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, because I mean, it's been a while since I've seen Alien 3, and I know some of the stuff was practical, but I wonder if I'm trying to remember if there's anything computer generated in there. Was there?
Yeah. When the aliens are chasing him out of the tunnels, like the alien is like jumping across the tunnels, and it looks bad. Yeah. Nowadays it's pretty dated.
So,
but even then, that atmosphere is David Fincher. Mm-hmm. You can tell.
Oh yeah, there's just like the grimy
filter to it, and well, after
steam.
fight,
there's always a lot of steam.
There's always steam, but no, there's steam in 7.
There's semen in 7.
There's a lot of semen.
Steam and semen.
But Jeff Cromenworth, sorry. That was the cinematographer for Fight Club, and he's been the cinematographer for everything, I think, except for The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. And you can tell, like, it's kind of like Steven Spielberg and Janusz Kaminski. Like, they have a distinct filter, a distinct amount of lighting that comes through and hits the actors in the scene. Like, you can tell that, okay, that's a David Fincher filter. Mm-hmm. That is what that's supposed to look like. And man, he's just, I mean, he made a movie about Zuckerberg interesting. I remember when he announced that I'm doing a movie about Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook. Like, David Fincher, he's following up Zodiac with that. Mm-hmm. I'm like, oh God, this is going to suck. And it's awesome. Mm-hmm. How did that happen? I have no idea. It's fantastic. It's well paced. It's like a thriller. I don't know how they did that. I mean, the writing is obviously very good. Aaron Sorkin's a great writer. But I mean, the tone in it and the mood in it is just strictly Fincher. And hold on. Oh yeah, Jared Leto and cornrows. I mean, anybody who can do that, make that look cool is great. I mean, and that's another reason why he's so great. He'll make a movie about he'll make a nice little crime thriller in 7. And then he'll make an epic like The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, or a movie that spans numerous time periods like Zodiac. And then he'll make Panic Room. which is set in one room in one house, and make that thrilling somehow. I mean, the guy's just, again, one of those directors where the second he comes out with something new, I'll watch it. I wasn't expecting Gone Girl to be good at all. I'm not the biggest Ben Affleck fan, and I was just shocked about how good that movie was.
Yeah. And Mindhunter, I think.
That's it. Oh, yeah, he does TV well. House of Cards. He directed the pilot for that one.
Yeah. He's really good.
Yeah. No one does tone and atmosphere as well as he does.
And I think, and it works. It works really, really well.
So what would you say? You said Zodiac is his masterpiece.
That's my favorite movie.
Your favorite movie. You wouldn't even consider it a masterpiece.
I mean, I like it because I like the music. I like it set in the period. I like Robert Downey Jr. in it. I like Mark Ruffalo in it. Jake Gyllenhaal. I think I don't know what I would call his masterpiece. I mean, I think
it doesn't have to have one.
Yeah, and I mean, but Zodiac's the one I've seen the most.
Okay,
like, and that's like on a Saturday afternoon, I can put Zodiac on, and like it's just a good. Like the acting's good, everything's good on it. I mean, the directing's good, the music is good, everyone does such a good job with it, and
for me, that's 7.
Yeah,
I could watch that anytime. It still hits.
Yeah,
so it's so good.
Hurly Burly. Oh god, that song in Zodiac.
It's so good.
I think it's Hurly Burly.
Yeah, and I don't. Well, I kind of like Mank. I didn't like Mank as much as I thought I was going to. I think it was a passion project of his. I know his dad wrote the screenplay and he passed away right before he made it. So I think he just wanted to make it. It's obviously very well made. I like the black and white choice to do it that way.
I haven't seen it. Is Gary Oldman?
Yeah,
good.
He's very good. Yeah. But it's about writing a screenplay of a movie that I haven't even seen yet.
Yeah, and
it's just so revered, and it reminded me a little bit of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where it's like a vanity project. He wants to make it because it's like nostalgic, and I think that's what Fincher wanted to do with Mank. It was good, but I don't know. It didn't feel like a Fincher movie.
Didn't it? Is it because it was on Netflix?
That could be it too. Content, Jay. Content.
Content. Yeah. Because I mean, did he still have the same team that he has on his other films?
I think it was the same editors, cinematographer. Yeah. I think all of it. Yeah. It could be Netflix.
Yeah.
I mean, they just don't. I don't know. The quality's going down.
There's something missing.
Yes. Another time, Jay. All right. Well, yeah, that was my number 4.
So 7. Watch 7 for a David Fincher movie.
7.
Okay.
I don't. How could you be a movie fan and not like 7? I'm sorry, it's so good. If you're gonna write a crime drama, a crime thriller, mystery, that's what it should be.
But Kevin Spacey's in it. You got to throw it away.
He dies in the end there, Jay. He dies at the end.
But not in real life.
I know. He's still alive in real life.
That's why you got to throw it away.
I don't know if I agree with this. Can't throw away 7.
You got to ignore anything that anyone's ever touched. Also,
I mean, we could do this all day.
I threw away all my Will Smith movies because,
did you?
By God, am I going to judge a guy for 30 seconds of fucking up? Absolutely.
You bet your ass I will.
No, you listeners, you better not make a mistake. Ever.
I hate Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I didn't enjoy 1 second of it. You know what? Fuck Bad Boys. I hate all of it.
Like the movie? Or you
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, the movie. I didn't clarify.
Oh, okay.
The movie.
Oh, yeah, me too. What?
That's what I meant.
So, all right. So David Fincher, 7, masterpiece.
7. Yes.
All right. My final director.
Okay.
Who do you think it's going to be?
Oh my God. I don't know.
This.
Oh, I know.
Who?
I know exactly who it is. Now that I thought, I'm like, what's his favorite movie?
Oh,
it's Zemeckis.
Yes. So, and I have him as best all around.
He's the greatest.
He's
You're the best
all around. Nothing's gonna take you down. So I have him, and he's my favorite director because he's just a good all around director. I don't think he's the best director ever, but I have several things. So first, he's versatile.
Yep.
He does drama. He does sci-fi. He's done comedy. He's done adventure. He's done problem films, which like addiction films. He's done war films. He's done several family films, Christmas films, and a horror thriller. He's done it in live action, motion capture, 3D, special effects, live action with animation, with Who Framed Roger Rabbit. His play with
that's his masterpiece. It's so good.
It's close.
Yeah.
His play with camera shots and the opening scene in Contact when young Ellie, which is I want to call her Johanna from Hunger Games. She was in Donnie Darko.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
God damn it. Anyways, when she's run into the medicine cabinet and it turns into the mirror shot.
Yep.
He's good at playing with the camera. And Polar Express, same thing, even though it's motion capture animation, following the ticket, flying out of the train. It falls down the hill, rolls into a snowball, falls off the cliff, down. You see the wolves running, and then it kind of blows through underneath the bridge, goes back up into the train. And so he does long decorative shots. He did that with Forrest Gump with the feather.
By the way, my kids love the Polar Express.
I love the Polar Express. I didn't watch it. First time I watched it, Christy and I, it was when we were at the house we were renting, and it came on TV. And we're like, up next, the Polar Express.
Yep.
And I was like, oh, creepy motion capture. And Christy's like, oh, have you seen it? I was like, no. And she's like, you haven't seen it? It's good. Of course, she falls asleep 20 minutes in. I was hooked immediately. And I was just like, okay. Yeah. So now every year at Christmas, I immediately went out and bought it on Blu-ray, and I was like, this is good.
It is a Christmas masterpiece. Yes, it is.
It's fantastic. The thing that got me, I feel like he's one of the best scene directors. Back to the Future, the DeLorean and the lightning strike, that whole scene, the way it's cut together, the camera and just the slowly quicker cuts, the everything building up to that moment. He's very good at creating that tension or that anticipation. Flight, the plane crash scene. I remember the first time I saw that movie, I turned to Christy. I was like, that fucker knows how to direct a scene. And I was pumped. Like I was just like glued to my seat that the entire time, or sitting at the edge of my seat. Contact during the climactic launch of the vessel.
Yep.
That whole scene. Forrest Gump, the Vietnam battle. And that, like his ability to direct the scene, but he also uses special effects, as I said during David Fincher, the best way possible
to support the story.
You do not notice it, and it serves the story. So you have the feather in Forrest Gump. I remember when that movie came out, I was like, oh, that feather wasn't real, but it looked real at the time. I mean, it was good special effects, but it didn't take you out because it looked real. Lieutenant Dan's legs, playing ping pong, meeting the presidents. He had that is a very effect heavy film, and you don't think of it as special. I mean, I don't know. I can't remember if it won special effects for best or an Oscar for best special effects.
I think it did.
But you don't, when you think of Forrest Gump, you don't think of effect heavy movie to where there's a crap ton of shots in there that were really, really well done. And you don't notice them. I mean, there's things sitting, there's like a wooden spool that's computer generated when Lieutenant Dan spins him around after he falls out of his wheelchair. It's not there. It looks like everything is so well done. It's the best use of special effects.
I think the only thing that people remember for special effects wise for that movie is when Forrest is talking to like Kennedy or Lyndon B. LBJ or something. Yeah.
And it's still really well done. They filter it out. It's like as if he works with it. And then but he's always done special effects. So, I mean, you have some of the special effects are dated in Back to the Future, but like in Death Becomes Her, the hole through Goldie Hawn, seeing right through her body.
Yep.
You have Meryl Streep's head turned all the way around. Little bit iffy, but I mean, he's always kind of played with it, but it serves the story. It's not just in there just to be in there. The height, like during the walk with this 3D, just that whole sequence of him walking again, sweaty hands.
Yeah.
And his ability to use effects that way. And then the doll effects in Welcome to Marwen with Steve Carell.
I never saw that one.
I saw it. It's fine. I mean, I saw the documentary that movie was based on like years before. But there's a doll effect to where it's really well done. It makes Steve Carell look like a plastic doll. I mean, it's not so jarring and fake. It's very tastefully done. But yeah, he used the special effects to, my favorite way ever is just to support the story.
Yeah, and his stories are very good, like timeless.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Forrest Gump is there a better story
that he did?
Yeah.
I mean,
like interesting story.
Personally, I
mean, I know Back to the Future is your favorite movie,
but I mean, Forrest Gump is pretty. I think that's his epic, like his But a better story, I don't think so. But I mean, everything he does though is like you said, good stories.
Very good.
I don't know. I mean, Forrest Gump, I think, is probably his
magnum opus. Yeah. No, Back to the Future is. I'm sorry. Yeah. I don't want to step on you.
I mean, see, and the thing is with like Robert Zemeckis, he's not an auteur. He doesn't have a very distinct style. He could direct anything and he can do it competently. And that's why I have him as best all around. He can do anything and it'll be a well done movie. But you're
right. He doesn't have that
obvious style.
No, not like a Fincher or who was it? Who's I just talking about?
A Tarantino
or Nolan.
Yeah. He's
like the very first frame. It's like, oh, this is a Nolan movie. Oh, this is a Fincher movie. Zemeckis isn't like that. You're right.
And
he's not.
And I think that's why part of it, I think, is why he could do so many different genres, because it's not like, oh, here's a Zemeckis movie, but it's a Western, or here's a Zemeckis movie, it's a comedy. No, here's a comedy.
Yeah.
Here's a drama.
You've never seen War unless you've seen it through the eyes of Tarantino.
Robert Zemeckis.
Oh, guys, what are we doing here? A war movie?
Yeah. Did Castaway?
I mean,
Castaway, is not my, I don't know. But I mean, I like him because he changes it up. So he did Used Cars, which was, I think, a comedy or something. I never saw it.
I never saw it either.
After Back to the Future,
he did. Well, before that, he did Romancing the Stone.
Yeah, Romancing the Stone with Michael Douglas. Good adventure. Just
solid.
Yeah, it was like a almost a generic version of Indiana Jones.
Yeah, kind of.
Or just kind of like play off that same kind of pulpy kind of hero. And then does Back to the Future. And then he does
Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which taking live action and
I know
melting it with animation that well back then.
Yep. And it's an interesting story.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good like mystery.
Yeah.
Which is shocking. It's a movie about Looney Tunes.
Mm-hmm.
Bob Hoskins. The poor man's Danny DeVito, as I used to say.
And then he goes from Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I think he did a couple more.
Well, he finished off the Back to the Future stuff.
Then did Forrest Gump. And
Death Becomes Her.
Yeah, Death Becomes Her. Then Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
And then after that,
Contact, right?
Yeah. After that was Contact. That was 97.
I just gotta say this about Contact. Never before have I been so engrossed in trying to. I could not wait to see how this story was gonna end because the pacing was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
You get wrapped up in the mystery of the alien signal. He puts you right there, and then you find out it's like South Park does a great bit about it. That's why I love South Park.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Garrison, by the way, has like a flashback where he's has a traumatic experience, and he flashes back to where he was watching Contact, where he's like, oh God, oh, spent 3 hours watching the movie and found out the alien was her fucking father. And that's how I felt exactly. Mm-hmm. I was like, really, it's her. I understand he's trying to get the emotional, but it didn't hit for me there.
Yeah.
Not like Forrest Gump or Castaway.
And I agree. Like I felt the same way the first time I saw it. And the ending doesn't.
I like it more as I got older though.
Yeah. I mean, it's still kind of goofy when you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
That I'll put on the story. Not so much
the story. Gotcha.
Yeah. So, because I think it was based on a book.
I don't remember.
And, but I liked the real ending, which was because I was like, oh, I was waiting for like an alien creature or something like that, like some kind of like payoff like that, because it was like right after Independence Day. And is around that time to where it's like, oh, some weird alien creature, and nope, it's just, oh, I'm going to present to you as your father because it's easier for your mind to handle.
Yep.
Because that's the way we do things.
Yep.
You're the first step.
I think the Mission to Mars was another movie that came out right after Contact. Yeah, there was a lot of alien movies there.
And but yeah, I mean, everything up until that point I really liked, but I do like the last bit when James Woods is having a conversation with the other person on the committee, and she's like, well, that what's interesting is the recordings of her trip. And he's like, okay, I'm listening. He's like, it recorded 18 hours of static.
Yeah.
And I like that, like little beat, like
nice little touch.
Right at a nice touch at the end, and to where you're not thinking, oh, did she imagine this kind of a thing? Because the whole thing is about faith, or like it's one of the themes and all that. But no, I mean, paced really well. Everything he does is very well done. But after that, he did What Lies Beneath, like a little thriller with was it Harrison Ford and Michelle Pfeiffer. And then he goes into motion capture for 3 movies.
Yep.
And then he does The Walk, a 3D movie. Then he does Allied and Welcome to Tomorrow. So, I think his recent one was The Witches remake. I didn't watch that.
It's not good.
No. Is it? Did you like the original?
Yes.
Is it not good because you like the original?
No.
No, it's just not.
It's just not good.
Really? Like, just technically, just not a good movie?
Like you said, you set up Zemeckis here is he uses the visual effects, you don't even notice it.
Mm-hmm.
The Witches does suffer from that problem of there's too many visual effects, and it's like animated mouses. The effects on Anne Hathaway's character are stupid looking. It just takes you out of it. Where the original one, it's practical.
Yeah.
Jim Henson's makeup is amazing in it. And it's scary for kids, you know.
Mm-hmm.
This one is not scary. It's just there's too much visual effects. It just took it out of me. I just didn't like it.
Yeah.
It's not that good. Yeah. I was shot. Well, it's because of Netflix. Well, this is released on HBO Max and on theaters, so it's just for a streaming service. Did he just want to? I got to give him something. There it is. It's done.
Yeah, fart it out.
Yeah. I'm contracted to do this, and here's what you get.
Yeah.
Stream it.
Could be it too. But yeah.
That's a good pick, though. I love Zemeckis.
Yeah, and I think no one talks about him.
I know. Why is that? I don't get it.
I think it. I mean, he doesn't. I mean, Back to the Future is his most popular. That and Forrest Gump, I think, is.
Yeah. Without a doubt.
And
he's made some like hits, man.
Yeah.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit made a lot of money.
And I think part of that is one, he doesn't have the branding or the recognition of Spielberg.
Yeah.
Even though he's worked with Spielberg most of his career to where Spielberg got him his start.
Yeah.
And so he doesn't have that brand name like Spielberg, and he doesn't have a distinct style, but he's just very good. He's a very competent director. And I don't know if he doesn't strike me as someone that is a people person. I don't think I've really seen him do interviews. I know from what I know from him, he really likes control over a lot of things. And there's a theory that's why he went to motion capture in the mid 2000s.
Oh,
is because he could control everything at that point.
Right.
And so I don't know. I mean, maybe it could be a personality thing, but I mean, I don't know why. Yeah, I don't know why people don't talk about it, because I mean, he's done, Forrest Gump, Back to the Future, Castaway was huge when it came out.
All of these movies have made a ton of money. Like What Lies Beneath made a lot of money. These are all box office hits. All of them. Flight made a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah, and Flight was
Polar
I
Express
enjoyed that.
made a lot of money.
I think that was I haven't seen Allied yet. I wanted to try to watch Allied before we recorded this, but I think Flight I watched, didn't know it was going to be a problem film, a addiction film.
Yeah,
I was pleasantly surprised. I was like, okay,
yeah,
that's okay,
okay.
Okay.
Oh no, you did.
That's my Denzel impression.
Oh, okay, all right.
You want to go home? You want to go? Jesus, that sounded horrible. But no, I mean, I think he's just one of the really good. I mean, he's been working for 40 years.
I know.
And I mean, there's so many directors that do a couple of good movies and then just kind of vanish. But I like it. I like him too because he changes it up. He's like, oh, well, this interests me.
Let's do that.
I'm going to do that.
Yep.
Kind of a thing. And he doesn't stick to genre. He doesn't stick to necessarily a style, but he likes to play around with the camera enough to where, oh, I'm going to try this kind of shot thing or whatever, to where I feel like he makes movies for himself, I guess, a little bit more than
kind of like Wes Anderson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit. Yeah.
It's a good pick.
Yeah. So Robert Zemeckis, I would say for one movie, I don't know. I'd say,
what are you gonna do?
I don't know. Either one. I think Forrest Gump is what everyone knows him for. That, I mean, I'd say Forrest Gump.
That's solid.
But you're not going to go wrong if you choose Back to the Future. I mean, that's one of the better trilogies.
Yeah.
But
I mean, Back to the Future is a masterpiece.
Yeah, it is a perfect movie.
Yeah.
I think Forrest Gump is a little bit more larger. It's a bigger movie.
Oh yeah. Big scale.
And
spanning multiple decades.
I think the special effects are better done in that. Story's good. I mean, it's based on a book, but I mean, Back to the Future. I mean, he had a hand in the Back to the Future story. So
yep. Yeah,
either one, you're not going to be disappointed with either one. I think they're both. Those are his biggest movies.
Right.
They're both great.
I like it. All right. Well, to round this conversation out, I tried so hard not to include this person in there, but I just
couldn't help yourself.
I'm like, I'm trying too hard to not include someone because for the sake of not including them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Steven Spielberg.
Yep.
He's just my favorite.
I thought you were going a different way because
I was going.
He's only made like 3 movies though, so it's not enough.
Where'd you think I was going?
What's his nut? Frank Darabont.
The only reason I didn't pick him is because he's only made like 4 movies.
Yeah.
But he has made my favorite movie of all time.
And it's a good movie. I like Mist is so good though.
The Mist is very good.
God, it's so
underrated.
Good. Oh, it's so good.
I love it. Because it ends on a sour note, and I appreciate that.
I would say I would equate The Shawshank Redemption with Forrest Gump. Came out in the same year. It's a generically well done movie. Like they're technically very good films. They are both very good films. It's just, I mean, they're both very similar.
For everyone who can't,
yeah.
Jay is making
I'm moving my hands in like a bunny foo-foo kind of a formation.
Yeah.
But it would be, I think Mist is his.
That's your favorite?
I think so, because I feel like that's based on a short story, I believe, Stephen King story, right?
Yeah, he loves him some Stephen King.
And
he's only directed Stephen King adaptations for films.
I think Shawshank Redemption is technically a better movie. Shawshank Redemption is a better movie. I think I like Mist more because the writing, the story. He does a very good job with that story, but I think Shawshank Redemption is probably his best movie. But I enjoyed The Mist. Hit me like,
it hit everybody.
God.
Oh yeah.
And but yeah, I mean they're both good. But
yeah, and I mean The Green Mile is emotional.
Mm-hmm.
I cried at the end of that movie because he's John Coffey is just like the sweetest guy.
Yeah,
and he has to execute him, and those performances are amazing. But Shawshank is like I feel like it's just a perfect movie through and through. The Majestic, it's okay, nice little movie, but that's all he has. Yeah. He only has 4, so and he did The Walking Dead, and that's all Frank Darabont has done since, and it sucks.
Season 1 of it, but
right, but he just didn't make enough. Yeah. So I felt like I was just trying to keep the Steven Spielberg off the list because everyone says Steven Spielberg, like you said, Martin Scorsese, but I just got to the point where I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah.
He's just my favorite director. He's, part of my childhood. For a lot of the same reasons you were talking about Zemeckis, I feel like Spielberg's the same thing. He just doesn't stick to one genre. He's jumps all over the place. He'll do a horror movie with Jaws. He'll do an adventure movie with Raiders of the Lost Ark and the other Indiana Jones movies. He'll do a nice, historical caper with Munich. He'll do a cat and mouse movie with Catch Me If You Can. And
yeah, Spielberg is a better premiere version of Zemeckis.
Yeah, that's fair.
So, I mean, and Zemeckis is kind of like the poor man Spielberg.
It's really hard.
Wait, I mean, it sounds mean, but I mean, it's like, I would put Zemeckis right below Spielberg before I'd put J.J. Abrams right below Spielberg.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
Oh
God, how dare you even put J.J. Abrams in the same breath? He's so overrated.
Yeah, he is.
Fucking J.J. Abrams.
He's really good at starting things. You just can't stick the
He
landing.
just can't stick the landing, can he, Jay?
No, he can't.
He belly flopped that one.
Yeah.
Started with Lost. You should have known after Lost. What a great premise, and then it just flopped like a.
Best movie was Star Trek. That was it. He should have just done that and then quit.
And that was it. Yeah. But I put here, what is there to say? His movies are like a warm blanket. For me, at least.
Mm-hmm.
Like comfort movies.
Yeah, they are comfort movies.
They're unbelievable.
They're fun. They're all.
Yes. And here's why he's so unique to me. Spielberg movies, there's a clear antagonist and there's a clear protagonist.
Mm-hmm.
You know who the bad guy and the good guy is, and who to root for and who not to root for. It's clear.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't make anti-hero movies. It's not like we were talking about Lawrence of Arabia last week. There's depths to T.E. Lawrence's character. Is he doing it for himself? Is he doing it for there's none of that in Steven Spielberg movies. It's like, this is the good guy. This is the bad guy. They're at odds with each other. And then you just focus on the story.
Mm-hmm.
And then he hits the story out of the ballpark all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. I mean, go down the line. Jaws. And then Raiders of the Lost Ark. E.T.
Close Encounters.
Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
I know you're not a fan of that one. The
Which one?
Close Encounters.
It's okay. I feel like it's a little overrated. And he's so good at making those childhood movies, those kid movies, like E.T., one of my favorites, and Hook. I love Hook.
Yeah, that gets shit on quite a bit.
I don't know why. I don't know why Hook gets shit on. It pisses me off, actually.
I think that's one of the best paced films for a child, because that movie is like 2.5 hours long.
I know.
And as a kid,
Does
I
it feel
watched
like
the
it?
crap out of
I know.
that. And I never felt like I was sitting there for 2.5 hours.
Who didn't want to be a Lost Boy when you were watching that movie? Rufio was the coolest, of course. I love all of the Indiana, except for Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. That's the only movie in his filmography where I'm just like, why did you do that?
I don't mind that.
I don't like injecting aliens into.
See, I thought it worked because it felt very much like a B sci-fi movie. It went from the serialized quest, adventure, archaeological story to that take place in the 30s and 40s. Then you go to the 50s, B sci-fi. You got Plan 9 from Outer Space. You got all these movies that were made in the 50s. It's that classic sci-fi, and so that's where I thought they were going with it. The new Indiana Jones movie that they're making, I don't know if they're just going to go like flashbacks and introduce a new Indiana Jones. I don't know how they're going about it, but I wonder, because right now it's been 12 years since the last one, 14 years since the last one. So we are now in the late 60s, possibly the 70s. Like, what kind of style is it? Because that's what I thought.
I see what you're saying.
And that's why I didn't mind it. I looked in the sense of, okay, it's a 50s sci-fi B movie.
I feel like they fell away from the visual, the standard effects. Yeah, they used way too much digital effects in that movie.
It was cartoony.
I don't like that.
A lot
of the original trilogy was practical effects.
Mm-hmm.
That's anyway.
Yep.
But I actually like Last Crusade the most. That's my favorite Indiana Jones movie.
Mm-hmm. I
love that movie.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's the one that we watched when we were just our age, watched that the most.
Yes.
We were too young for Raiders to watch that over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
It was because that was the first movie I remember seeing in theaters. I mean, I just think we were born at the right time. It came out on video. Home video became a thing at the right time to where we watched it over and over again.
Yeah. And actually my ranking is backwards to forwards. Like, my favorite is Last Crusade, and then Temple of Doom, and then Raiders. But I love them all.
Yeah, I like them all. Raiders feels a little bit more dated than Temple of Doom and Last Crusade. I like Temple of Doom has one of my favorite scenes, and that's when they're on the bridge and he yells to Short Round and says something in Mandarin or whatever. Yeah, and he's like,
"Nope, tea, nope, tongue tie." Like, that's not words.
He's like, what did he say? Like, hold on, lady, we're going for a ride.
Just Harrison. Just, tongues. Just say noises.
Do you know Mandarin? No.
With the Will Ferrell impression of Harrison. Oh, long tea to tongue tie. What are we doing?
But yeah, my favorite scene is one of my favorite Indiana Jones scenes. Like, hold on, lady, we going for a ride. And he's lifting up the sword and she's like, oh my God.
So over the top.
Oh, so good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, go ahead.
And but then he makes two of the best war movies ever made, Schindler's List and Saving Private Ryan. I mean, the D-Day scene is iconic. The scene in Schindler's List where they're following that little girl around, and it's a black and white movie, and then there's just a little girl in a red coat that Schindler's looking at when the Warsaw ghettos are being evacuated or whatever, and it's just it's iconic scenery. And he's still doing it, Jay. I mean, Ready Player One is perfect poppy, fun entertainment. I just love that movie from start to finish. It's just fun. You don't get a lot of just fun movies anymore, and Spielberg's still great at it. I like The Adventures of Tintin. So his foray into just motion capture movie like Zemeckis did. Yep. I think that was great. He did the autobiography movie, Lincoln. That was good. Solid movie. I still haven't seen West Side Story yet, so he did a musical. I'm sure it's good, but I haven't seen it yet.
And they said it was fantastic.
Was it good? Yeah. I'm sure it's good. It's Spielberg. Everything he does, I instantly want to see, and I'm sure it's going to be well made. It's going to be good. I'm trying to think of a movie that I don't like that he's made off the top of my head. Even little intimate movies like The Terminal, where it's just in one location. That's good. Minority Report is so underrated. Minority Report is a fantastic noir mystery movie. I think that movie's perfect. God, what movie sucks that he's done? I'm trying to, like, War Horse was okay.
1941.
Yeah, that one's boring. That one's boring.
I never saw War Horse.
It's okay. It's very well done, but it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, he's not going to make it. I mean, he's so good at it that it's.
He's like, so good at it, Jay,
it comes
that
down
I
to like
do
taste.
Yeah, okay.
So we're like, oh, I wasn't into that. I can give two shits about a fucking War Horse. Like,
that's a good point.
Like,
that's a good point.
I mean, it's not like he makes a bad. Like, has anyone ever been like, oh, that's a bad movie? Like, it's just the pacing is awful. Like, I mean, he's gotten so good at what he does. I feel like
it's like a layup.
It's like Bob Ross painting a picture. Like, oh, I don't like A Cabin in the Woods. Okay, how about this one that he painted? But it's still a good picture. Yeah. Like it's like comparing the Pixar movies. Like it's
true.
They're all very well done movies. It's just you have to.
It's a matter of taste at that point. Yeah. I think that's a good way to summarize it. It's just a matter of taste with him. Yeah, he's just.
And I don't.
And okay, so yeah, my masterpiece for Spielberg was really tough. I think he's made a couple, but for me, it's Jaws. I think Jaws is just.
I was going to ask you what
probably in my top 5 movies ever made. I think Jaws is so good.
As I've gotten older, I feel like Jaws is probably my favorite that he's done.
It's so good.
And it was by accident because the shark wasn't working. Like that movie, I feel like would suck balls
if the shark
was working, because you would have seen it a lot sooner.
Yeah, but the scene in the cabin, the monologue is just
the comparing of the war wounds.
Yeah. So good. And the suspense is fantastic. I mean, it's perfect.
Two movies. I love the first half. I love the second half.
Yeah,
it's
perfect.
They act like real people.
Yeah. Yep.
The Richard Dreyfuss, and he could be in anything, but
I know that's the closest thing that he's had to like an anti-hero.
Yeah, because I mean, well, they were fighting against nature. So that was the conflict.
Mhm.
And it wasn't like Quint or any of them were bad or even an anti. I mean, they were just
Quinn was just now that I think about it, Quinn was just a dick.
Yeah, he was just an asshole.
Yeah, he was just a dick.
He was a loner that
He was a crotchety crabsman.
Yeah. Oh, your hands are soft from counting money all your life.
It's a good line.
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
Yeah, so yeah, Jaws is up there. I almost might say that Minority Report to me is a masterpiece. I love that movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's a perfect film noir mystery.
If you were to pick one movie, would that be your one movie that someone would have to watch to get their taste of Spielberg?
Yeah.
Minority Report.
It hits all the beats. Yes. Like for the newer generation that maybe turned off a little bit by Jaws in terms of now you got to see the monster, and you got to people that don't appreciate pacing. You got to appreciate pacing to enjoy Jaws as much as I do. I think.
Yeah.
Minority Report is it's out of the gate, just it hits you, and it's fast. It doesn't let up.
Yeah. I've seen Minority Report a couple times. I thought it was fine. Like it just felt like a generic action movie at the time. I would say, in my opinion, I think Jaws, is, I mean, it's one of his masterpieces. I watch it every year for
so good.
Independent 4th of July. Like that's my 4th of July movie. But Jurassic Park.
I would say I was just gonna say Jurassic Park. It's pretty perfect.
And because it's still like the effects still hold up. There's not a lot of computer effects in there.
Yeah.
But you can't. I mean, it's
when they re-released it in 2013. We went to go see it, and it was the first time I saw it in the theater since I was a kid, and it still held up, and it was awesome. Yeah.
I remember being on the edge of my seat in the kitchen scene with the raptors.
Yeah.
And
yes.
It was so good. So good. And I remember it was just one of those movies that you got to go.
You have to go see that.
You have to go see this. You have to see. And that I like Spielberg because of that. He created so many movies like that.
Yeah, so many.
And to where you have to go see it. And you don't get a lot of those movies. Yeah, you had like the Marvel Avengers movies were kind of like that, but it required you seeing 22 other movies to feel the impact of the culmination of that story, as opposed to just here's a movie. You got to go see this movie.
Yeah. I mean, what else can you say? It's Spielberg.
Yeah. I like Catch Me If You Can.
That's
probably one of the ones I can rewatch a lot.
Yep.
As far as the things that
I mean, Saving Private Ryan is probably my like in terms of war movies, a movie about war. That might be my favorite one.
And everyone said it that was in World War II when that movie came out. My grandfather said it to me when that movie came out, and he's like, Saving Private Ryan nailed it.
Yeah.
He's like, that's
I mean, the D-Day scene is...
It's the most realistic portrayal, he's like, I've seen of war since I was in World War in the Philippines or whatever.
And Spielberg doesn't really do violence. And that was his first foray, I think, into violent content like that. Well, I mean, Schindler's List is violent here and there, but not like Schindler's List wasn't about this war strategy and battle. It was about a circumstance, but
he's not a violent. I mean, he'll have some violent imagery in there, like taking the heart out of the chest, or like getting stabbed. But he's not a lot of blood and guts kind of person.
He's not
the brutality of violence. He doesn't show typically.
No, he's not Tarantino.
Yeah,
no.
And
so when he did it. Oh man, he let you know how brutal it could be.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to. The Post That's pretty good.
That was okay.
Ready Player One, I felt the live action scenes felt like a Spielberg movie. The animated stuff just felt like a random animated
Weren't feeling it.
thing. I remember after we got out of the theater, I asked Chrissy, I was like, I wonder if this is going to be like the Goonies of current 6-year-olds or something like that. Like, is this movie going to be something that children now watch over and over and over and over again? In 15 years, there's going to be like some weird love for this movie.
I think it was made for people like us because it was so nostalgic in its content. Everything was geared towards people from 25 to 40.
It was, I mean, all the references were and stuff, but it felt too juvenile for me when I watched. Because I was just like, who am I supposed to be relating to? The child that's the main character? That, I mean, it didn't.
What do you mean, the 17-year-old?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or whatever. Yeah.
I mean, there's like 10-year-olds in it. Like the two brothers. One of them's like 10.
Oh, no, I guess the Ty Sheridan character.
Ty Sheridan character. All right.
Yeah. I was like, I don't know if I was just.
You're just a crouchety old
I am.
man.
I'm just an old fuck. I thought it was fine.
Yeah.
I
loved it. I enjoy, like, that's what Spielberg does. He does the crazy poppy fun movie that doesn't really get made too much anymore.
Yeah. And I agree. And I look at his filmography and I wish he did more of that stuff. But the most recent one that he did, I'm just like,
Nah.
like I wasn't feeling. I mean, it was still
It's fine.
very well done.
Yeah. He said it was the hardest movie he's ever had to make. Just because of all the visual effects in it.
And that's the thing. But I mean, he shot The Post the same time he was making Ready Player One. So I'm like, how involved were you? You shot a Meryl Streep and Tom Hanks drama.
Yeah. He shot that in 2 days.
Oh, of course he did.
Yeah, that's what he did.
I feel like he showed up on set for like, in the live action felt like a Spielberg movie.
Yeah.
Like the kids talking in the van, the chase scene, everything, all that felt.
He directs kids better than anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
there's no doubt.
But yeah. But other than that, I think Tintin, The Adventures of Tintin, Kingdom of Crystal Skull. But yeah, so like Lincoln, I haven't seen. Bridge of Spies, I haven't seen. The BFG, I haven't seen. But no,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just you can keep making movies.
Yeah. Still gonna keep doing it.
I think it's definitely.
So it was between him and Scorsese.
Yeah.
I'm just more of a Spielberg guy. If you had to shoot me, put a gun to my head,
I think
who'd
most
you pick?
people would be. Between Spielberg and Scorsese.
Yeah.
Spielberg.
Yeah.
Just I like Casino. I mean, Goodfellas, obviously. Shutter Island, I like more and more.
I know.
But I don't visit Scorsese movies the way I do
Spielberg. That's fair.
And Jaws, I see every year.
Yep.
E.T., I try to watch every Halloween.
It's very good.
So there's annuals that I go back to.
Yeah. And I can throw on Indiana Jones anytime if I'm just like folding the laundry. And I'll put on Raiders or I'll put on Temple of Doom or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
It's
so
good.
Yep.
I mean,
I like my list.
Yeah.
I can deal with this.
Yeah. He's the best that's ever been.
Best there is, best that there was, best there ever will be.
Yeah, I don't see anybody coming close to having
being as prolific. There's no way. No, there's no way.
No.
It's like the Cal Ripken record.
Mm-hmm. Who's that? Was that Sports,
Jay.
Okay. He did Polo, right?
Can you tell me what you think Cal Ripken's record is? I just want to. It's baseball.
He's a pitcher, right?
He started the most consecutive games in baseball. It's like something like over 2,000.
And nowadays people rest. They don't play the whole season anymore. He played like 15 years in a row. Didn't sit out a game. It's never going to happen again.
Yeah. I mean, when was Jaws? 76? 77?
I want to say 78. Maybe 77. He's around there.
That was his first. I mean, he did like Sugarland Express and the Duels.
It was 76, right? It was before Star Wars because he coined the term block. Or was it 75? I think it was 75. He coined the term blockbuster. The first summer blockbuster was Jaws. And then Star Wars redefined it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 75.
Yep.
So, yeah, over 40 years he's been making.
Yep. Isn't it crazy that a movie as old as Jaws is still, to this day, one of the best thrillers, horror movies ever made? By accident? Because you're right. The reason why it is so effective is because the damn shark didn't work. You had to be creative. It goes back to your whole thing about, Robert Rodriguez, and you got to work with what you got.
Yeah, and what amazes me is not that it's still effective from 75. I think there's plenty of films that still hold up from the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple from the 60s. There's even, I think It's a Wonderful Life still holds up.
Yeah.
There's some smalts in it, but I mean, for the most part, it maintains. What astonishes me more is the fact that he has so many that just continually hold. Raiders feels slightly dated just from the look of it. Still solid. It still holds up. E.T. still holds up. Last Crusade, I think, holds up better than Temple. But Jurassic Park still holds up. Minority Report is now 20 years old.
I know. Crazy.
Catch Me If You Can is 20 years, still a good movie. These are all, he just.
Yeah. One after the other.
It's
knocking them out. Yeah. So Jay, what are we doing here?
I don't know.
What is this? It's midnight.
Fucking midnight. Damn it. Oh, Jesus. Sweet, sweet runtime of this podcast.
I know. We really got into it. But I love talking about this stuff.
Yeah, it's good.
It's fun.
Spielberg, yeah, he's the best. He's better.
Yeah, just say it.
He's better. There's no doubt behind that. And
it's not.
He's definitely better than Zemeckis. He's better because I feel like Zemeckis and him are in the same boat of just film directing.
Yeah,
Spielberg does it better. There's always going to be someone who does something better.
Both of them are in the same boat because, back to your point, they don't focus on one genre
or one style.
Kind of like what Fincher does, or even Nolan. Nolan has a distinct style.
He does, but large. I would say his
scale's massive,
huge,
yeah,
but I couldn't necessarily. I don't know. I love how he shoots in IMAX.
I know.
The list overall, this was a lot harder to come up with than top 5 movies.
I agree.
Just because you had to look at more of their films that they did and find. And
it was tough.
Yeah. And it was, yeah.
It was enjoyable though.
Yeah. I thought it was a nice exercise.
Yeah.
All right.
How about next time, Jay?
Next time we are going to have a slight delay. So I have to travel for work, but we are going to take a slight break. The new episode will be slightly delayed. We're going to take a break next week. I'm traveling. When we come back, we are going to be talking about the Fantastic Beasts and where to find them. The Secrets of Dumbledore's Secrets, something.
Yep.
It's titled that. So we're going to talk about that. And we're going to talk about how that whole franchise should have been positioned in the first place. So,
but yeah, wanted to give a shout out to Jason. Thought of some good. Oh, sorry.
Oh,
not you, Jay.
Not me.
Not you. Other Jason.
I want to give a shout out to.
I want to give a shout out. I want to give a shout out to the one listener, or one of the tens of listeners that we have right now.
We have tens.
Yes. And me and Jay are going to do this in the future. We're going to, sift through the comments and talk about suggestions on future podcast episodes. But I thought he came up with a good idea. Talk about, our top 3 movies that were A, historically accurate, and B, entertaining.
Nice.
So you could go down the the Steven Spielberg Lincoln route, which I'm sure it's very entertaining and it's historically accurate, or you could go down the Michael Bay, Pearl Harbor, Ben Affleck, Josh Hartnett route, where not really that entertaining and not that historically accurate. Yeah.
I like it.
I like it too.
So cool.
Yeah.
Well,
hey Jay, that's my 49 cents and I'm sticking to it.
That's the way the cookie crumbles.
And that's the way it was.
We suck.